Dang it, Jim, I'm an astronomer, not a doctor. I mean, I'm a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor.
Doctor Who?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. What are we, season 4, episode 2, if that's correct? And today,
Yeah,
Something.
right.
yeah, we're going over Treasure Planet,
Yeah.
and we'll start as normal with roll call.
Hello, everyone. I'm a key writer. This is one of the regular hosts. Happy to be here as always.
I'm Rune. I'm present as well.
And I'm Sprinks, as how it normally goes. Ryder, would you like to start us off with the new start um, listing thing?
Oh yeah, this is this
I don't
is
know if it
this is our
has a name.
socials, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our
Yeah. You can
plugs.
always so you can find us on socials like Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. Fair majority of them. Just feel free to leave comments and you know follow us around because we will see them and we want to interact with our community and stuff like that. So please feel free.
Yes. Lately, our recaps where we try to answer back questions or anything we have or community-wise has been a little empty. So to raise that up would be great to raise the community that way.
Yeah,
So thank you.
and it would also give us something more to do than just dig into each other's uh less liked opinions.
Look,
Different.
Lightyear is
Lightyear's been adjusted.
Light. Okay. So being that I get host over this film, I go over some facts. And funny enough, I think this might be, for those watching along on YouTube, might be the first one we have where an image is actually given for the facts.
uh,
Ooh.
I think we did this one time earlier, but you're mostly correct. I think I might have been during the test pod.
I don't know what you're
Something.
talking about. I don't know what that is. Anyway,
That's
um,
true.
for Treasure
Spoilers for
Planet,
future audience.
yeah, Treasure Planet fun facts. We have the release date of November 27th, 2022. The box office. Actually, I'll start with the budget. I'll start with the budget. The budget was 140 million USD, with a box office of estimately 110 million USD.
Did you say
And
two? Sorry. Did you say 2022?
did I? 2002.
Okay,
Maybe I
sorry.
did
I heard
say
2022. That's why I was so confused. I'm like, did this is new?
no.
What?
Maybe I did say that. No, 2002. My mistake. Just in case. But yes, it is recorded as one of Disney's biggest flops in that regard. Runtime out 1 hour and 35 minutes. It is directed by both John Musker and Ron Clements. Hopefully, I pronounced this correctly. Its rating is PG. Its genre is adventure sci-fi. Then I have a couple of fun facts, and I'll go with the one that's currently on the screen for YouTube to help give some clarity and understanding. To test if traditional 2D animation and 3D animation could work together in a film, the animation team went back and tested it out on original animation artwork from Peter Pan by giving Captain Hook a cyborg arm.
Um, Atlantis, did that come out before this or after?
I believe Atlantis came after. I
Okay.
think, shoot, one between the Walt Disney Animation Studio, there was one movie in between Treasure Planet and Atlantis, I think. The film
And
was,
then I know Sinbad was later.
oh yeah,
That was Fox Animation or something.
the film was pitched in 1985 and was turned down multiple times. It was pitched a second time in 1989 after Little Mermaid came out, and then it was pitched. I read it. I didn't write this part down. Um, it was pitched, I think, after Tarzan or some other movie. Also, again, in case this is the first episode you're listening to us because you like Treasure Planet and all our other episodes, you've never seen those movies and don't care. Totally cool, totally understandable. But take all these facts with a grain of salt. They're all found online, and who knows how much are true. I just got to put that out there.
That's fair.
Save my
Yeah.
skin just in case. Um,
Atlantis came out 2001,
Atla- Atlantis: The Lost Empire was 2001.
according to the Google.
Okay, then I might have it backwards. Atlantis maybe came out first, then, and then something in between the two, and then Treasure Planet. That might be it. Any Hoosers. Third fact: the camera choice in the film is based on around how Steven Spielberg and James Cameron shoot their films.
Yeah, I can see that inspiration.
Yeah, actually, I can too. That was actually fairly blatant.
Fact number four: the story was developed by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, Rossio, I guess, who are also known for working as a duo. The two had co-written many.
Russo.
Russo, sure. The two had co-written many Disney and non-Disney movies, including Aladdin, The Road to El Dorado, Shrek, and the first four Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Quite a lot,
Just to name a
but
few, I
not at
think.
this point.
Wait, what did they? Oh, sorry, I missed the start of that. What?
The story was developed by Ted Elliott and Terry Russo, who were known to work as a duo. The two had co-written on many movies, including Aladdin, Road to El Dorado, Shrek, and the first four Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh, oh, good for them.
The human characters are hand drawn. John Silver's cyborg leg, arm, eye, and the robot Ben are flat rendered CGI. The ship was created using Disney's deep canvas process, and in some scenes, all three types of animation appear simultaneously.
Yes, and surprisingly, it doesn't look horrible. It's a little off sometimes, but it doesn't look bad. So
Yeah,
I have two
pretty well
more.
done.
Yeah, two last facts here. The name of the ship, RLS Legacy, is a reference to the book's Treasure Island's author, Robert Louis Stevenson.
Not
And
R.L. Stein.
no, no, that would be a completely different movie, probably. And lastly, a sequel was planned with Willem Dafoe set to voice the villainous Ironbeard, but it was canceled based on this movie's failure at the box office.
So we got Ironbeard and Metalbeard in the Lego movie.
Well, Lego movie was much later, but yeah.
Yeah, we got a Metalbeard at some point.
it's true. It's better than nothing, I guess.
And being that this is a hour and a half movie, I think we can just stick to linear. We don't have to go over every scene if there's some things you don't necessarily want to talk about or really bring up, but we'll just go linear. That works for the two of you.
Sure.
Oh,
Uh,
if you insist.
do you want to go over
Uh-oh.
history?
Yeah, history of the movie. Writer, why don't you start?
Sure. My history of this movie is very short. I've never seen the movie, but I have seen clips of it that I didn't know where it was from, and I have seen a lot of memes from this movie that I also didn't know where it was from. So watch this movie was kind of like a bingo for me in that way. I'm like, oh, this is where the thing is from. That's so nice. But yeah, so my history is pretty short. I've never seen it before for the podcast, so I watched it. My watching for the podcast was my first time, and I did quite enjoy myself. So
All
Alright.
right. And Crimson, your history on the film.
Um, very minimal, as in this was my first time. Sinister and Spring. Yeah. Uh,
I'm right here.
right. Yeah. Um, really egged me on to watch this through the years I've known you guys. So it's an interesting release, I guess, of build up. Uh, and apparently, according to my dad, I saw this when I was a kid, but I have zero recollection. And I usually have at least one scene to remember in anything I watched. So I'm going to assume he was thinking of a different movie.
All right. And I guess lastly with me, my history of the film. It's not necessarily an all-time favorite Disney film of mine, but I think it's a very cool take on the original story of Treasure Island. And I've seen this movie over 10 times, I'll say, in my life. It's a movie I come back here and there, and that's about it, I guess. Space pirates, and we covered space cowboys before, so it's kind of familiar territory we've been in. So I guess
Yeah.
let's start with the narrative introduction of the pillaging. I don't know the ship's name. The other ship, the big
I don't know.
ship.
I know Captain Flint is the only
Yeah. What a cool looking
name
alien.
I. Yes. Appropriately so. Kind of, kind of almost reminded me of Davy Jones in a good way from the Pirates movies. Um, but yeah, I thought the narration was cool, and I liked their storybooks in this fantastical future. It was kind of nice to watch, or kind of nice to experience, I guess, and got a lot of very quick character building as well for a very young Jim.
Yeah, the book was cool. I will have to say it's not very practical.
No, it's not, but
Just having a tablet would do instead
But
of
it's
actually a
3D
turn page book.
hologram.
yeah.
Uh, Still, very cool book. Uh, just the very beginning with the violin, the whale noises, and the song that was going on with the background of the stars. I liked right off the bat immediately before we even got narration.
Yeah, the narrator's voice, by the way, just ASMR levels of
It,
quality good.
it seemed familiar to me. I didn't look it
Yeah,
up.
I didn't look it up either, but he sounded familiar to me as well.
That was not in one of my facts. I did also not know who the narrator is or list that down. But Crimson, you brought up the violin and the music in the background. Um, oh shoot! Sorry, I have a cat. Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I
Anyway,
understand.
the music was composed by James Newton Howard.
Who's done?
I believe he did Avatar.
Oh,
Uh,
Oh,
that's why
that
it's so familiar to me because it's
yeah,
recent.
yeah.
That was brought up.
That's why.
Okay.
Generic spacefaring adventure. There we go. That's did a good job. Serviceable.
yeah. At least I think that's the same guy. That was just pulled out of my brain.
Oh, I believe
Audience,
you.
fact check. Leave in the comments. um,
The whole visual of solar sails is cool. I don't. Ryder, you're a smart guy. When did the concept of solar sails become a thing? Do you know what,
I
like a decade-ish or anything?
I didn't. I mean, like I didn't know it was a real thing until I saw the Star Wars prequels because there's a solar sail ship that's used. Um, and then obviously it comes up again in Deep Space Nine
Mhm.
concept from da, da, da,
Yeah, I knew it was around for a while, but yeah, it's not really utilized much
Light Sail
and
2
stuff.
mission 1980s. We had a solar sail mission from the 1980s that we wait. It's been proposed since the 1980s as an idea for interstellar propulsion since the 1980s. And the first spacecraft to make use of the technology was launched in 2010. So
Oh,
solar
wow.
sails have been a thing.
Since Ryder looked up a fact, I looked up James Newton Howard. I made a mistake. Avatar is by
Oh,
James
okay.
Horner. James Newton Howard is known for Crimson. You like the dinosaur movie, the Disney's dinosaur. He did that. He did The
Oh,
Sixth
okay.
Sense. He did Signs. And Ryder, you would appreciate. He did The Dark Knight.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh, he is also famous for doing the Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Duh. Poor
Why would you
unfortunate
bring that up?
soul.
I'm trying to forget Christmas. Why would you bring that up?
Man, isn't it great to know the composer of Dark Knight and Nutcracker were the same?
I'm
That's
gonna be honest.
incredible.
I genuinely thought that the Dark Knight was done by Hans Zimmer because the others were done. Was he a co-composer with Hans Zimmer, or did he just do the full movie?
Talk amongst yourself. Oh, look.
Okay, sorry. Uh,
So
Yeah.
much research.
Yeah, so much
Uh,
research right off the bat. So yeah, you're making a point about solar cells.
yeah,
Uh, there you go. If that answered your question.
yeah. I just didn't know how long they've been around. Because I of course remember Deep Space Nine. I saw that episode with you, so I knew
Yeah,
it's been around before this came out. But I was curious.
yeah.
Um, I might as well, yeah, might as well talk about it now about the practicality of these ships in space.
No, yeah, no, this is entirely fantastical world. They can. There's no like bulkheads. They're breathing open air. It's just gonna. It's
God,
one of those things I just had to
that was
accept.
my problem, was breathing open air, because they acknowledged anti-grav, but
They
they never
did right,
acknowledged
and
breathing.
you know what bugged me. Well, I'll get to the. It's a little later in the movie, but the our female captain that's introduced later on,
Amelia.
Amelia. Her name is Amelia, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
by
yeah,
the great Emma
Amelia.
Thompson.
Yes. Amelia
Ah,
says a line about uses cardinal directions south by southwest in space, and that pissed me off. And then she gives coordinate numbers afterwards, and I'm like, I'm fine with the coordinate numbers, I guess, but cardinal directions in space didn't really work.
if you're looking at the sun, we're going that direction.
There's a lot of that. Like there's like nods to like. I mean, this is gonna
There's
go
a
into
lot
one of
of
my major
nautical
one.
stuff
Yeah,
referenced.
this is gonna go into one of my major problems with the movie. World building makes no fucking sense.
Yeah,
But it does not take away from the fun.
it's all
Surprisingly,
for the visual spectacle.
yeah. I still had a lot of fun, but man, building took a sharp decline in this movie.
Writer, it was both Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard for Dark Knight.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
Yeah, I had a feeling because I'm like I said, I'm used to seeing Hans Zimmer's name attached. So.
Joe Nolan, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, well, Jim's normal kid I can relate to in a bit, where it's time for bed and just keep reading, which I did a lot with comics and books and my Game Boy when I was younger.
There we go. Game Boy for me.
Um, yeah, I never got a Game Boy, so no, it was just books and just books for me. And occasionally, I was building Legos under my blanket.
You were building
Oh,
like an actual set or just
Yeah, I was building Lego sets under my blanket. So what I did was I had a because artist family, so we have those like thin, like long, big boards that we could put on the floor so people can draw on the floor or do arts and crafts or whatever. I had a smaller one in my room that I took under my bed. I made like my little fucking sheet tent, and then I started building like small Legos with a fucking flashlight in my mouth. It was fun.
that sounds hard to
wow.
hide.
It does.
Um, it's quieter than me trying to read out loud. So.
I,
Okay.
I don't think I ever read under the covers
Oh no,
when I
well
was
to
a
be fair,
kid.
you're right. I didn't really hide that well. I got in trouble for that. I didn't care as a
Okay.
kid though.
It was mainly Game Boy drawing, or I did math. I was really practicing when I was little with math. It's like
And of
came
course,
to nothing now.
practicing your wand magic.
Yes, my
Yeah, your Harry Potter wand magic.
he's referencing the third movie.
Yeah, I
Anyway, speaking about movies, thanks Crimson. Back to Treasure Planet.
know.
Um, they move on to then cut to Jim 12 years later.
Yep.
And I know from it doesn't really state Jim's age, but another fact I saw was in a deleted scene. It states that Jim's 15 at this
Yeah,
age. So at the beginning,
I
he's
would have
3.
guessed. I would have guessed 15 or 16. Yeah.
Okay, so he's three. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's. I would have thought 4 or 5, but that works.
I gotta say, like right through to the like telling the stories in bed. I'm a sucker for steampunk and fantastical solar sail shit. So I loved the visual of that in this film because there's not enough of steampunk in like mainstream. So it was nice to see that like take on it, I suppose.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's not much of it, especially for set for like a general audience kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and while I said while I the world building is problematic for most of the movie, it like I said, I do have a nice little niche love for that sort of thing. So the all the whole opening scene was a lot of fun and definitely hooked me in for the movie.
Uh, in his bedroom before the kind of jump. Did either of you catch the Stitch in the background?
No.
No.
Uh, yeah, when they pan out and he's under the covers. I was looking at his room like, oh, lots of alien pirate stuff, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Stitch right there.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
Uh,
notice Stitch. I did catch a hidden Mickey though in his bedroom.
oh, I
yeah.
missed
All
that.
my I got like I got two sci-fi references when get through the door later that I understood immediately.
Oh, there's
Uh,
a good handful of references in this movie.
Yeah, there's plenty, and it's all good.
uh,
So we see
when did
Jim.
Lilo
Oh,
and Stitch come out? By the way.
that was the next one.
Okay, so that was the
Yeah.
Disney hint.
It was um shoot, as I said, there was actually maybe I said that before recording. My apologies. When I was looking for facts for Treasure Planet, I was given like over 100 different facts, but we'd be here forever if I gave 100 facts. But one of them I did overread was the composer originally was Alan Silvestri, who turned it down to go to do Lilo and Stitch, and then they went to James Newton Howard. So I think
Interesting.
Lilo and Stitch was after this, but I don't know if it was the initial next Walt Disney animation piece.
And then they used a little bit of the 3D CG in that movie as well.
That's true.
With the ship, anyways. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Who voiced Sarah? I
The mom.
I recognized her from like three
Yeah, the
different
mom.
things, but I didn't remember what. I know her voice very well, but I couldn't place her. This is Jim's mom for the audience
Yeah.
who hasn't seen the movie, I guess.
Yeah,
Lori
she seems familiar.
Lori Metcalf.
Okay.
Not
Oh yeah,
familiar enough. And
she's in Toy Story. She's in uh where's the main one that's coming to my head right now?
as what, Bo Peep or something.
I don't think she's Bo Peep. She sounded more like Jessie, but I know it's not Jessie.
Uh, what?
I think
It's,
Andy's mom.
Oh, might be Andy's mom. Yeah. She got
oh,
typecasted in
small speaking
animation.
role.
Oh, she was in Uncle Buck.
Yeah. I got a very Star Trek 2009 vibe when the cops pretty much
Oh,
showed up with Jim at the door.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good comparison. Instead of
Yeah.
driving a vehicle off a cliff, he's flying his hoverboard around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
No Beastie Boys in this one.
yeah. It was still like the music was still appropriately like let me put this in quotes free. I guess was the interpretation I was supposed to get from it because he's very Jim is very uh I guess one of my minor problems would be that Jim's expressions don't really they aren't very uh they're very odd sometimes and but I think this was one of the scenes that I thought his expressions were like perfect um when he was on the solar sails for his winding through the opening. And this is one of the few scenes I had seen without context was his solar sail scene. So,
I'd love to see if anyone made a little animation of him getting crushed.
Probably. That's probably out
Because
there.
I was like, oh man, that would be amazing. Uh, no, he made it out, got arrested very quickly. And nobody was around, Mom. Ugh, Uh, I didn't like Jim for this whole anything revolving his mom was kind of irritating.
Oh, for a second I thought you were gonna say the whole movie.
No, not throughout the whole movie, but he was probably my least favorite character
Oh
by the end of it,
wow.
though.
Okay.
Well, no, Ben. Ben was my least favorite. But
I
we'll
think
get
there
to
was.
Ben.
I'm kind of in agreement. I like I like his character and concept because I understand what they're trying to do with him. I just don't think that they stuck the landing.
I got more to touch on Ben when we get there, which is
Yeah.
a good far amount out. But we get to see the Benbow Inn and what Jim's
Mhm.
mom's up to, and we get to meet the doctor.
Uh, oh yes, deplorable, adorable. Uh, I liked that they kept with that he keeps screwing up with words like that throughout. It wasn't just a one-off joke. They kept it going.
Yeah.
That was the only one I
I
wrote
mean,
down of note, but it was still happy that they kept
yeah.
that in.
It was a nice through line that I guess I find endearing because I talk fast and I definitely stumble over words a lot of the time. So I liked that. It was a trait they kept going. Sweet caffeine.
Let's
I don't really have uh anything to say about the scene other than that. Like I I liked the mother son relationship. He came off to me like as the rebellious, I don't want to do shit teenage boy, which is very generic, but I just kind of accepted it. Um, and the mother was also she's not really much of a character in this movie, but with what little we have of her, I do think they used her effectively. Um, I am I get the doctor's at least a regular patron.
Oh, he said
Um,
they were a family friend.
okay, so
Back
yeah, that
officer.
Yes, please don't have me do that again.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, with Jim, I because his mom was the way she was, I didn't like him immediately because we've seen this in other things. As you said, it's not complicated. The rebellious kid,
Yeah.
but her being such an apparently good mom, we're like, all right, they better give a good reason why Jim's a little turd.
Little
And I
dickhead.
don't think they gave a good enough reason for him to
Yeah,
be such a
I
turd.
think their justification for it is he just had no father
No
figure.
father figure, yeah, yeah. Left without goodbye, wasn't really there.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, my father figure is half of my life, and I turned out great,
Oh, we don't need to touch on that
right?
in this cartoon Disney movie.
yeah, you run off and treat your mom terribly all the time, right? I don't know.
Anyway, something I really like about Dr. Delbert, who's voiced by David Hyde Pierce, it's such a recognizable voice to me. I know
Um,
he's was it Twig or Stick? He's the Stick Bug in Bug's Life, and he's the
Okay,
Pill in Osmosis Jones, and it's the exact
yeah,
same
I
voice
haven't.
for all three of these characters, which I think
no,
is
it
just
doesn't
his
have
normal
much
voice.
range. Yeah, I mean, he does a good job though. To be fair, uh, um, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what his voice acting range is if it's the same voice across those choices.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen Bug's Life. I can't even picture the voice of the stick bug. I just remember the caterpillar's voice,
Heimlich,
and um,
Francis,
is it Flint or Flint? Whatever the main character, uh,
Flick,
Flick. Right, and it was a Flick something.
Yeah.
Um, and ladybugs, right?
Francis.
What's yeah? There you go. That's it. I don't even remember the cockroach's voice
There is no
Uh,
cockroach.
or cricket,
there is no
whatever.
spoon, Neo.
Sorry, cricket,
Hopper.
grasshopper. Yeah, there you go.
Man, it sounds like you got to watch Bug's Life again.
It's been a long time.
Yes. Anything
Uh,
else to be touched on in this scene?
I don't think so. Like I said, they do a lot of good character building for the mom, but with the problem with the despite the problems that we've already listed. So,
I do
I
like
thought it was a good job endearing us to her a little bit.
I like how Jim's probably heard this story from his mom so many times of how recluse he is that he just immediately starts going to dishes.
Yep.
Well, yeah, he's definitely hurt it a
Yeah,
lot.
he isn't talking back to her or just goes up to his room. He actually helps in a way, but stays silent.
Yeah. I think it's also a little bit in. It's also kind of set up for what he's going to end up doing a little bit later too.
Um, if we're counting that as part of the scene, I'm definitely going to talk about those cops. I liked them.
Wait, right,
Uh,
Crimson, not to I apologize. So, just off of what Ryder said, Ryder, you said him going to the dishes is foreshadowing for later?
It could be perceived as that. Yeah. I don't want to commit to that because it's very very loose. But it's kind of um, whenever a parental figure is not necessarily talking down to him, but like trying to care about him, he's always in doing chores, usually in the scene. And that just happens to carry over into the his life on the ship as well for the first half of the movie.
Okay. Crimson, continue.
I
Apologies.
guess I'm going with what he said now. That like all the chores on the ship are because he was told though. It's not like he was sad or something.
Like I
Like,
said,
well, I
I'm not
better
going to defend
clean
this one. I'm just saying
swab the poop deck.
it's more of a visual cue than a for a character thing for me. But
Mhm.
I noted it's there at least as a potential if someone wanted to make a more substantial argument than I'm going to. Because I kind of on you, it's very loose.
Um, yeah, I really like the cop guys. Wish we saw more of them. They wouldn't have really fit in anywhere, but I still enjoyed
Yeah,
them.
I think the cops, because this is my first time watching, the cops really threw me for a loop because I'm like, oh, they're just full 3D. That threw me off for when I first saw them visually. I got thrown out. I I still like them. Like the characters are very very short lived, but they're fun. Um, especially when like it's indicative when Jim quotes the citation back to them. Um, the paragraph that he was supposed to read or whatever part
Mhm.
of the law, which was funny, but I don't know if a robot should be able to forget that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's just robotist, right? Just assuming robots know everything.
Yeah,
But I agree.
I,
I had the
We don't
same
know how they're
issue
like
programmed.
regarding that.
like I said, it's a world building problem. I like the character that they are, though.
They reminded me. I don't know if how when it popped in my head or whatever, but this watch through, uh, the police do remind me of the Iron Giant, and just the way they're animated, and I guess just robotic. But
Yes, I thought of two things. Like I said, I thought of Star Trek 2009 with the opening to Jim Kirk, and I thought of Iron Giant because they have that similar animation style. Yeah.
Mhm. That was going to be something I brought up. Was I had Iron Giant vibes through this.
hey, Sinister, did you
Um,
get Iron Giant vibes? Just curious.
shoot,
Yeah.
he's too far away. I didn't hear him. Um, but for me, since it kind of threw you off a little bit, Ryder, I was fine with it because I have seen quite a few 2D, 3D animations, and it didn't stick out too much to me.
Like I said,
Uh,
it wasn't horrible. Like I said, it was one of those things that it threw me out for a minute because it just something I had to get used to. This is just the first overwhelming introduction of it.
mm,
Though, like, because his solar cell scene from earlier, it's very also the same thing. They got the whole 3D visual animation style going in. But I took that as like they're interacting with objects in the world, and then this is the time when they introduced characters that looked like that. So I guess to explain why I was thrown out, it's like I'm used to animation being divvied up, so 2D would be spliced onto 3D, a 3D world almost. We kind of went over a little bit of that with Weathering with You, but that's what kind of threw me off because once I saw all the 2D characters interacting with the 3D world, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm used to. We're fine. And then they introduced a 3D character, which was which is what threw me out. It was very brief, but it had nonetheless happened. It's not going to affect my objective score. It was just my personal thing.
Gotcha. That's also a nice little tease to later.
Yeah.
Uh, handy, handy.
uh, Yes, let's see. I wish I wrote down everything they described because they're like, we've seen this type of character before. Blah 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 blah, and they start listing off bad
Yeah,
traits and loser.
Hey, yeah. One
yeah,
little detail I do like is when they're after Jim, they're on like hover bikes, um, and their hats aren't flowing off in the wind or whatever. And then at the end, when they leave the inn, they're like connected to their heads on a
yeah.
stick.
Like the gear like popped up and then came down.
Yeah, they didn't like tip their hat with their hand, and I'm like, okay, so their hats are connected to them.
Oh, actually, one more neat detail that I completely forgot to write down from the solar cell scene in earlier. He has straps around his feet, and that was very important to me.
Oh yeah, when you're flipping backwards through the sky like
Yeah,
crazy.
I immediately started looking for that.
It's fine. It would have been mega boots if there were no straps. There would have been
No, it's just the
something.
gravity device on his solar sail.
Oh, yeah, the anti grav. Um, uh, let's motor.
I snorted, but that's it. Pretty much can sum up my feelings with the movie. A lot of fun. I did have
Let's
a lot of fun
let's
with the movie.
roll out.
So you think those cops are Autobots or Decepticons?
I'll go with Autobots. They're pretty nice. They're nice dudes.
Going around killing people, so Autobots. They're just trying to, do their job. Um, and then,
And
uh,
then Jim is on the roof
yes,
contemplating, and then a ship crashes or docks, crash land docking, I guess.
I have to note this scene. There was just a few visual things. Like it crashed in a way that I thought was much closer to the end. And like the way they shot it, like the way that the animation was quote unquote filmed. Uh, I didn't understand the spatial distance between the inn and where it crashed until the like
I'm walking up to the end, like up the
till
hill.
them walking up to the end. I'm like, oh my god, because I'm like, I was wondering like where everyone is, and then I, it was, it's definitely I took some issue with some of the filmmaking in this, and that's very rare for me because I was lost on the spatial difference between things.
I
Gotcha. To
wasn't aware of it
me,
at the time, but picturing it, I agree.
I
Yeah,
don't know if it's a reference. It could be, but it reminds me of Green Lantern. Um, how
Oh,
I guess, Green Lantern patrolling the Earth sector crashes and Hal Jordan finds him.
is
I don't
this
no,
know. I think it could have been the
Green
ship
Lantern in
look.
general or the movie with Ryan Reynolds?
Uh,
I mean,
I can't
Ryan
remember.
Reynolds does have it as well.
Yeah, I'll go
That's a regular
both,
thing.
but I just
Yeah.
think it's the look of the ship that reminded me of it more.
Like,
Um, maybe. But yeah, so it was the spatial difference was kind of threw me out here. Um, and I thought the alien was a turtle.
Kinda,
pretty much was.
kind of.
Yeah,
He called it
Bill.
a salamander, though, on the ship,
I
didn't
I
he?
know, which threw me
Well,
off. I'm
that
like,
could just be some racist comments.
it's true. I mean,
It
like,
could
I
be.
don't know all the races in this universe, so I obviously, like, I just assumed turtle because of the hunchback, like shell-looking vibe with the
Yeah,
cloak over it.
that could also just
Um,
be Jim not knowing what species this alien is and is just trying to identify with what he knows.
yeah, possibly. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
Bill
he's here to
Bones.
deliver the map of Luke Skywalker.
That's the name.
No, wait, that's a
Oh,
different
that's a different
movie.
movie.
He's here to he brings the MacGuffin of the film.
Yeah, that's. I guess we can. Do we want to talk about the map now?
uh,
Um,
we could
I
probably
guess we talk about the roof bit a little bit. For
yeah,
me, it's yeah, he does the typical overhearing stuff he needs to overhear to change as a character a little bit, or at least push him in a direction where he hears his mom is at the end of her rope, all that.
mhm,
Poor Sarah, poor Sarah. Uh,
yeah.
and apparently he's a
I feel like this
prodigy.
is
Prodigy.
Yeah, again, I
prodigy.
feel like this is a something he has heard before, and he just hasn't done anything about it because at least that's what I got from the earlier scene with the mom lecturing him.
Uh, I agree, but he looked like he actually took this one. Like he
Yeah,
felt what she was saying.
which is convenient for us, the audience. We're here with the start of the story, but I'm curious as to what makes the difference this time.
I think just her saying "end of a rope," I guess,
Could be.
Maybe
because
he's
you
at
could
an
hear
age
someone
where he's
complain all
maturing.
the time.
He
But if
could
they're
be.
at the
He is at like the age where like maybe that he is starting to grow up. This is a thing, and yeah, the whole prodigy thing again. It took me right back to Star Trek 2009. Kirk passing all his classes, and he still chooses to be a bit of a rogue.
Captain, they're gonna blow up her ship. Crunch. That's fine. Shields down.
Hmm,
Are they?
Um,
uh,
fun movie.
shoot. Okay, we'll talk about the map later.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was
yeah,
I
saying.
was
well,
gonna say.
yeah, we can talk about the map later. Yeah.
Okay. Um. So then, oh gosh, I forget the line. I didn't really write it down. He said like, I remember when he brought cute pets, like home,
Oh,
whatever, and then they open the door and he's got this dead, huge turtle
he's got
alien.
a pet.
Dying turtle. Yeah, this is funny. It was a good cut. I was amused.
Do you guys
But
think the weather cycle was too fast?
oh,
When it's all like
absolutely. But
stormy and
again, I
stuff.
don't know.
Yeah,
But then again, I have no idea how this planet functions. So obviously, I can give caveats to that. Like maybe this just happens to be how the weather on this side of the planet functions. It's just
the only
Yeah,
thing
I'm inclined. I don't know enough, so I'm fine with it.
I was
yeah.
okay with Jim on the top of the roof getting the bones and then walking him up and it starts getting like rainy looking. But as soon as when they open the door and it's like pitch black outside, pouring rain, I'm like, wow, that was fast.
I mean, I take more issue that no one heard it crash because, mind you,
Yeah,
that was the issue that I took. Is like you would hear a fucking plane crash nearby.
That's
you'd
true,
feel it probably as well.
but that would only be with Dilbert and Sarah because it looks like
Yeah,
the inn's empty.
yeah. No, like I said, I don't have a particular issue that no one else heard it because we kind of see that their inn is alone on the hill. But I feel like one of them would have heard it. The benefit of the doubt is it's more of a skiff than a giant ship. Because if it was a giant ship, there would be no excuse. Um, the skiff is being smaller, you probably could get away with it more. But it's still the equivalent to this is a van just crashing into like a house nearby. You're still gonna hear something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially for a
Also
nice,
trying to
cozy
think
little place.
if it would make sound just flying by, let alone crashing.
Well, solar
I'd
Maybe,
have
cells are
to
but
quiet,
play it
so
back and hear it.
yeah, maybe, but if they have a dock, I guess a dock area, dockyard, and they have visitors from all over who kind of appear, I think that'd just be normal noise to them.
yeah,
It wouldn't be like overhearing like, oh wow, someone's rotor is dying or malfunctioning, and they just hear it. The crash, however, probably a little
yeah.
more.
The crash part is where I take issue. Well, I don't remember the film as well. Was it exploding as it was coming down, or was it just on
It,
fire?
It was just smoking.
it was
Okay.
damaged. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jim brings in Bones, and Bones dies. Like he did
Yeah,
not
there's some
have long
deaths
to
in
live,
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
there's a
is
few deaths in
good.
this film.
Good shows tension.
Yeah, we
Uh,
don't get those tensions anymore.
yeah. Uh, I did anyone else take an issue with uh so the guy dies, they see the silhouettes coming up the
Oh, what a
to the
cool
door.
shot! Looking
Yeah,
out
it
that
was really
window.
cool. Do we take issue with them just opening fire blatantly?
No,
Um,
they seem very cutthroat and would kill for the objective. So no.
But you gotta well, I mean the crew does, but as we find out this is the same crew that we'll see later.
Yeah.
Would
mhm.
their captain have allowed this? Because we know who he is
Yeah,
too.
At this
the
point of the film of him, yeah, I would say yes.
because he's built up this persona that he's a tough guy, and he's only cracked because of Jim. He didn't know Jim yet, so
Okay.
based off
All
what
right.
we
No, I
got
was just
in.
curious. I don't really. I was kind of in the middle, but yeah. If you're both feeling that way, I'm probably gonna agree with you because I left it as a note, just saying that's pretty aggressive. But that's fine. I
It's
didn't really take
also
any issue with the character.
also for I mean, it's kind of like can't see the crew because they're all silhouetted in the rain, but you can obviously tell that it's John Silver in the front lines loading up his arm cannon.
Yes, and you can also. It's also cool because most of the silhouettes are you're gonna see later, just them as
Yeah.
in flesh, more or less.
Was the Scorpion guy there? Spider Psycho? Was it Scoop? Scoop? Forget his
I
name.
I call it's funny. I call him the crab guy, the lobster guy.
Yeah. I
Uh,
always just went with Spider Psycho. 'Cause that's what Jim calls him.
yeah, I'd imagine he was there, but I can't picture it since he was like the most cutthroat out of all the baddies.
Yes. Um, and then
Uh,
they make their getaway. Uh,
Which
thankfully,
looked pretty cool.
it looked pretty cool. It was very clean.
Just yeah, the
Um,
tracking up the stairs kind of thing.
yes. I do like I said, this is one of the shots I liked in the movie. And which as I said, it will go up and down as we go along, but that is one I liked.
I liked the window. It's pretty cool. It opening just a slit for him to peek doesn't make any sense to me. Uh, but
Well,
the images
I
changing on it was cool.
I think I mean how I didn't really have much issue with that because you have your window screen like the video screen that's playing for the normal like happy go field that whatever that was on it. I think you could shut down part of it to kind of peek through. It would make sense to me, but again, this is more world building, so
It's minor. I just thought it seemed like the type of thing where it would just be like an on and off switch. Not that there'd be sections you could turn off.
yeah. I mean, like if you had normally you have window coverings, you can poke through your blindfolds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just assumed like, that's a futuristic version of what we can do now.
Yeah. Well, at least Sarah actually like moves over to the pad to actually activate it. She doesn't like lean
Yeah.
forward and it opens for her kind of thing because that would be way worse if it just kind of like identified her and that was so she actually does something to do it. But then they jump out of the
Uh,
top window.
Yeah, so he's like, "Oh, I know physics. It's fine. On the count of three," and then Jim just runs right into
three.
them. Yeah, that's at least sprained bones territory. I
That's all right. One of them's a dog. He's got good bones.
Yeah, quote
The
unquote
two are
dog.
fine. One's a kid. It's all right. The mom maybe got hurt.
Well,
yeah
they did kind of bounce too. I don't know if that's just the cartoon
It's a
element added
cartoon.
in,
yeah
but
it's definitely a cartoon thing and physics. And I'm not gonna pretend how I understand how physics in this universe works because it's not the same.
look, Ryder,
Uh,
it's that cart's not made out of earth wood.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, exactly. It's made out of trampoline wood, obviously.
yeah,
Um,
that's why it's so bouncy. But yeah, and then they turn around, and it's not a strong emotional thing, but just Sarah looking at the inn burning to the ground and covering her hands. I'm like, wow, that what a rough
yeah,
day she's been having.
yeah, that one got to me a little bit because I'm like, it's very clear she's down on her luck, and this is her livelihood. So I'm kind of happy the film acknowledged that she's a little bit distraught about what just fucking happened. Um, they're lucky that there was no pirate crew waiting outside the house to see them, or something of
That's
that.
true,
They all poured into the house.
which
Um,
seems
They all wanted
fitting.
blood.
so a
That
little
well,
lucky.
yeah, that
But
can make a little more sense to me if they're all that bloodthirsty to just follow captain's orders. There might be one person on the ship to maintain their ship, but because that's kind of played later in the movie. Um,
yeah.
but then again, they don't necessarily take Dilbert's cart, go around and get on the ship and leave. So
Mhm.
We don't need this, but I'm curious if I missed it or anything. Did Billy Bones ever explain the turtle? where he got the map and all?
No,
No.
not at all.
He just exclaimed he's getting chased by a cyborg.
Yeah.
Hence why I called it Luke Skywalker's map from The Force Awakens.
A
It,
cyborg. Eh.
the at most I would guess he stole it, but I have nothing to go on. He just has it.
Well, he doesn't seem like the most dexterous character to really sneak around and steal things.
Yeah, which makes it worse. But I don't really
Yeah.
know how he
I
got
could
it.
guess he got it in like a trade some sort.
We're almost to
But
the. I mean, we can. Do we want to talk about the map when they first use it, or do we want to just start talking about
yeah,
it now?
Well, we
probably
kind
when
of
they
get to the
use
next
it.
part where they're at Dilbert's house and then they use the map.
Yeah.
I I don't know why the map would be away from Flint or his crew. He presumably
Yeah, that's the part they
I
don't
don't know, would his
explain.
crew have been away from him at the time he
Yeah,
just
it's
locked
it's
himself
again,
away?
it's a MacGuffin. It
Yeah,
functions the
after he
same as
died.
Luke Skywalker's map in The Force Awakens. It makes no sense as to why it exists, but we have it. So
I guess it can make some sense. The part that's a bit odd to me, the fact that it's only one is fine. I think the use of the map is more for the key than the actual map itself. Because to me, Treasure Planet, the actual planet in the movie, is said to be like a myth or a story. But the fact that it actually exists and you can just fly there, you don't have to do any crazy mechanic or portal or something to get to a location, and it just exists. I think anyone could get there, but no one could
Mhm.
get the gold without the key. So I think the key of it is far more useful than the map part. The one problem I have with it is when they go to the planet, it's abandoned. No one's there. There's no other people looking. There's no other hunters or treasure seekers or whatever. It's just the one group. That's the only kind of problem I have with it. But I guess the map really does help from wherever you are in the galaxy, you can get there. Like it'll tell you like how far away you are. So I guess that's helpful because no one writes down the coordinates of where Treasure Planet is. I don't even
It's
know if Flint did
very
that.
it's very weird because Flint's crew should be dead because if not, they would have just gone back for the treasure after he's died.
Yeah. The
Um,
only one who's technically alive is Ben.
yeah. So that's all I can think is Ben took the map out and closed the portal, but I don't know how the map would have left Ben on that planet
yeah,
because Ben
especially
hadn't seen
since he's
anybody.
abandoned there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a story we don't know.
yeah.
So yeah, the way the map got off this planet doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense. Or key.
it's
What?
this map existing is a complete contrivance. It facilitates the call to adventure. Is I guess my main takeaway. I don't necessarily have an issue with the map's existence because, as you say, it's the function of it. The functionality of it as a key is better than it just existing, but it just happens to be lucky that it functions both as a map and a key. Then,
Yeah. And I don't
so
I also don't see much of a problem that Jim can open it like a Rubik's cube because he's a 15-year-old kid and he's just toying around with it. That makes sense to me.
yeah, the,
Oh,
yeah,
that was a huge problem I had.
Oh, you had a problem
I
with that? Oh.
the
Yeah.
issues. I mean, I'm kind of split on that one, mostly because like they already threw a few throwaway lines about him being a prodigy, um, and with him having been a bunch of like reading a bunch of legends and stories growing up, and I can buy that he's a quick puzzle solver, but I think it would be it would have been better for me if it transitioned to the being late at night, so his mom and the doctor went to sleep and he's still there just because he doesn't want to go to sleep. He's just keeping his mind active.
Yeah.
That would have been more,
I can
I guess,
also
enticing
believe
for me.
with the beginning of Jim being recluse and dangerous and endangering his life and everything, I can totally be fine with him like, oh, this thing could be an explosive. Well, I'm gonna toy with it. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is. He wasn't
yeah,
cautious about it, and I'm like, that's fine because that's kind of
uh,
shown in his character.
yeah.
Uh,
And then on the other hand, Crimson, I agree with you. He fucking
It
solves it
was instant.
really fucking quickly.
And it's not just a Rubik's Cube. You have to type in a sequence by pressing in the buttons. And he
Yeah,
got the sequence immediately. There was no trial and error.
yeah. I'm trying to think of it. good example. A good word to compare the contrivance. It reminds me of Uchi's knife from The Rise of Skywalker. Again, I'm gonna pick on JJ because he loves MacGuffins. So that one functions as like you have to be in a very specific location on a planet, looking at a specific direction in order to facilitate the the knife that will lead you to the throne room in order to get a holocron.
Before
So
erosion.
yeah, this is before erosion destroys the Death Star. Uh, that is very, very contrived, very, very problematic. This is not as bad as that, but the problem is it gets very close to being as bad as that because it functions as a key and a map. It is the two in one thing, and it's very lucky that it's got off the world, and it's very lucky that the mere existence of it is problematic because um
Well,
ugh,
there's one thing I don't. I guess it helps with it not getting off the world because the story of Captain Flint was after he pillaged, he'd vanish, just disappear in the night. But the only way to
Mm,
access the portals is on the planet, right? It
yeah,
didn't show anything where he could put that map or key into his ship to activate a portal. So someone
yeah.
on the planet would activate the portal for him to go through to get to Treasure Planet.
I mean,
maybe
like him and his
then,
crew
but
could probably
yeah.
operate it,
Yeah.
but the issue again, this raises another issue. One thing they because it's as a key, it functions as the key to the portal. Like one thing they could have done in some earlier story that we see is that they threw it through the portal as it was closing or something like that, so it just was lost to space. But it's we I don't think they can do that with how we understand how this works.
Yeah. And Ben also
So
never said anything on it when
yeah,
later, which I guess would have helped. That definitely would have helped and added to this if he's like, "Oh yeah, the it escaped in some sort, or one of the crew turned when Flint died, or whatever."
hmm
I mean, I'd still I have to believe that the crew's dead because they would have gone back for the treasure.
oh,
That's my
absolutely,
stance
yeah.
on it.
No, yeah, no, I agree. The crew would have to be dead. Uh,
Ben would have
I
to be
mean,
the only
there
living
is okay.
connection
This is a
to
hundred
Flint.
percent. This is 100% me writing for the writers of this film.
Something you tend to do.
What? Yeah. What if Ben or the old turtle guy was the last surviving member of Flint's crew?
Well,
That could be a
then
thing.
he would have been the one that closed the portal, presumably.
Yeah, but I mean, he would still hold that. That
So
would
he would
explain
have
why he
already
has the
known where
map.
it is.
Yeah, that explains why also he would still have the map though.
Why wouldn't he have already had the
It would
treasure?
give the reason why he wants to protect the map,
Well,
protect the treasure.
and the logical thing would be, I guess for that crimson is you don't leave with all the treasure all at once. You just take it a little bit of time. You take what you need to live off of it.
Oh, they have no ship that is shown that could take all that treasure.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, we see him in his skiff, so we can presumably, like I said, 100% writing for them. So this is not going into my objective whatsoever. This is like he could, in theory, go back there once a year with his skiff, load up on enough so he can have a good life for a year, and then go back the next year, pretty much. I mean, I that's what you would
Like,
that's what
one
you would
handful
logically
is enough to buy an inn and to
yeah.
rebuild it. If you had one shipload of gold, you're pretty much already set fine.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, yeah, I would agree. Like I said, it's very that would be something that would be something that sort of fixed the problem of the mere existence of the map, and it would also explain some motivations on his part for the very brief time that we have him. Because, like I said, this is a very, very huge contrivance for which facilitates the rest of our story.
Brinks, do
They
you
just
have it
couldn't
up right now?
Have the film up right now?
Yeah.
I do not.
He's recording. Hold on,
Oh.
I think I can pull it up.
Yeah,
What
I
am I looking
have.
for?
I'm currently in the hot
Um,
seat of the editing stuff for YouTube.
in the beginning, when we see Flint in the story, is the turtle on the ship. That's all I'm pointing out.
Oh,
Oh, interesting.
that's a
Let me
good
see.
question. I don't
All right,
know.
you all talk to your from amongst yourselves. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I know it has something that looks like the tentacle monster from Monsters Inc. I don't know. He comes out a door like waving his arms and like his tongue's going all over, and it goes as he walks through a door.
What color is he? Is it the orange guy?
In Monsters Inc. No, it's not. Oh shoot! Now
Not the
you're
sock guy.
ranking. No, not the 2319. God, man, I can't remember his name.
Is he purple?
Bring the door. No, he's like a yellowish. I think he's either yellow or orange, but he's scaly.
Okay,
He's smooth and scaled.
think
I think he's orange.
think I got it.
Okay. Bring the doors coming, Charlie. I'm on a roll today. Me and are on a roll. 2319. Oh my gosh, how
Uh,
can I not remember his name?
Fake fan.
No. No.
Um,
Gosh.
guess what? Writer's still looking. So you excused away the map. Well, why are you so easy to excuse it away?
Excuse it
The
away.
him solving it quickly.
Oh, because he's a 15-year-old kid and he's toying with it like a Rubik's Cube. The sequence to the buttons, that's completely coincidental, random. That I agree with you on. But just toying with it and twisting it around, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of with agreement with Sprinks on that one. He seems to be one that like he hides his emotions and he tries to distract himself. Him toying with the map, I am perfectly fine with because he would be trying to distract himself. Looking
Yeah, I'm
at the
fine with
crew,
him
I
playing with
don't
it.
see him.
See, that I feel like if they really were going to have
Yeah,
him as part of the crew, they would have shown that.
yeah, I tend to agree. Like I said, it's just a weird fan theory I came up to
Ah!
potentially fix this.
His name's George. George.
Okay. Come to you, or did you look it up?
It came to me.
Nice.
Just thinking about it. George.
So, yeah, without it being on that ship in the opening, which I feel like they would have, because it would have been an
Yeah,
easy
because they're
detail to
all very
add.
unique. They're all very unique characters. I agree that it probably would have been. He would have been there.
Yeah, would have
Yeah,
been
I'm inclined
younger.
to
Could be in the
think
background,
it's
shadowy.
just a treasure hunter and not a crew member. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
How do you guys like the intelligence of Dilbert being able to point out everything in the map?
Yeah, he's an
He's an
astronomer, not a
astronomer.
doctor.
Yeah. So I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like if I lived in a spacefaring civilization, I'd probably keep track of things like that too. And I'm not in a spacefaring civilization, and I still keep track of shit. So
I'm not even an adventurer, and I know where Africa is.
Wow.
wow.
What a big difference from yikes. I mean, I know
But in this world, traveling worlds is
look,
commonplace, so it would
Ryder
kind of be
has a
like memorizing
project I
countries.
know of that I can't talk about because it could be problematic in sharing. But comparing that to knowing where Africa is such a vast difference.
Well, not really, because in this world, memorizing where planets are is just like remembering countries of today. It would be commonplace
What about
in the
countries on
future.
a planet?
That would probably be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
But just memorizing planets, I mean, we do that with our own solar system. But if we travel
I mean,
outside our solar system, we'd probably
the
have to
logical
remember.
evolution to spacefaring civilization would be in the way that we are trained to kind of memorize our states and our state capitals. Whether or not we retain information is irrelevant to the point I'm about to make. So we memorize our state capitals within our country, and then obviously we have our countries around the world. The logical evolution of this is we would more focus on memorizing the countries of our world that we grow up on, and the extension would be we memorize the worlds that are a part of our empire that are or whatever civilization that we have when going to space.
Hmm.
So the local level will matter less as the further we expand ourselves out.
Yeah.
Back to the
Uh,
movie.
I have no idea. Before we go back to the movie, I have no idea what giant project you're referring to. I'm working on a bunch of different things.
Good, and that's
No,
fine.
yeah, the giant project.
I should not talk about it. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, okay, moving on.
So they use the map and they see that Treasure Planet is supposedly real, and Dilbert and Jim decide to go to was it? I'm gonna say the moon. It's not the moon. The space station,
Spaceport. Yeah,
Yeah,
spaceport.
I thought it was
yeah,
an awesome transition because we
That's
it
look
was
at it,
cool.
we see it as a crescent moon, and we just zoom in on it. I'm like, oh, it's cool.
I think they did it in the trailer for the movie, and it's awesome.
It's
I,
such an awesome transition.
it's not practical. It'd make more sense for it to be flat, but it was still cool.
It would
Regardless,
actually make more sense if it was a full ring, like a Halo ring.
or that if
Yeah,
it's mobile, but it's just a stationary station from what we see. If you
I
want to
like
utilize
it.
space, yeah, a ring would
Looks cool
make
enough to
sense.
me.
yeah, it
It's
looks.
cool. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's got the
it fucking looks cool. Yeah,
And
that is
gosh,
not what we're having.
it is
That's not
so
the question.
bright that it illuminates. You could see it as a moon.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of took it as this planet built an artificial moon for itself, essentially.
essentially. Yeah. Um, One of my problems regarding the Flint story is that it became fiction. If a real life pirate plundered 1,000 planets, it would become history. It would not become fiction.
Oh, I see what you
So
mean.
okay, so
Well, it could.
there is a level of like mythology that can be ascribed to certain things, the like actual history. Like I guess my example is gonna be the Iliad from Homer. Obviously the god aspect of it is very as a more fictional aspect, but we think at least people bearing the names were real at some point. So there is a
This
level of
was
like
100 years.
yes, that's not enough time. But my point was going to be there is a level that eventually it could become legend and turned into mythology almost. Not enough time has passed, especially since this is a spacefaring civilization.
Yeah, because according to Ben, he's been alone for 100 years.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
not enough
probably
time
about
to
how
die.
long the
Yeah,
captain's been buried.
man,
Uh,
I'm gonna keep picking on JJ. So in the same way that I take issue with that, I take issue with the fact that Luke Skywalker became a legend after he saved the
yeah.
galaxy 30 years ago.
That's myth.
In,
Jedi's are dead.
yeah.
What are Jedi's? Uh,
Sorry, JJ. Fix your shit.
They fly
Go
now.
back to making Fringe. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. My issue with the story. I don't know. Sprinks, you
World building
agree with
problems
that?
are problematic.
The problems. Sorry, that went on to a tangent of JJ. And where was the initial start of this? That was the
Oh,
problem.
That
we
the
were talking about
story turned to fiction
Oh, okay.
of Captain Flint.
I think it's a 50-50 thing. I think the story is told to Jim at a young age as a fictional story from like
Yeah.
his mom, even though it could be from a history book.
Well, then I would just say the mom's stupid, which I don't want to do. So
I
yeah.
wouldn't.
It's
I think it would
eh,
be a safer approach to tell Jim of like building him off of like a fairy tale than telling him. It would be like telling him a story of like Narnia, a fictional war and everything, then giving him a story on like the the War of 1812 or something. Like a history book versus a fictional book that compiled the two so it could be kind of blended because to their world pirates and the ships and everything exist. It's not fantasy to them or sci-fi in their own world, so it can be seen as historic. um so it's not that far off from what they already live in. So I do believe it's 50-50 that it's a historic tale and story because, as we're shown, Treasure Planet exists. Captain Flint's dead body's there. It's a true story, but it's being told to Jim as a child as a fictional tale.
yeah. I mean,
uh,
obviously, for a child story, they're leaving out the brutality, probably. um,
Oh, I'm sure
well,
the holographs didn't show murdering civil people on ships and
yeah.
I mean, he really likes this stuff, so he would have found out that it was real
Eventually,
if it was in fact real and not portrayed as fiction.
yeah.
Like,
It's a
as someone who grew up, I know the little engine that could wasn't real, sadly enough. But as an adult, I know it isn't. It's just when you grow up, you figure things out that as a kid you were
something
stupid to.
that could slightly help is if he's planet bound. if he hasn't gone anywhere. Like if he can only get information if it's true or not from people at the inn or people who visit, that could help.
I mean,
The
the
problem is
book
that
would be
that's something we would
sold
need to be shown.
probably
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
He's not so fixated on the story of it that he's like shown going around asking people about it or going to bookstores, seeing what else they have on it, or he doesn't dress like a pirate kind of thing. Like it's not a super fixation in his head, but it's something
Mhm.
that's childlike nostalgia and wonder when he uses the map and finds Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
We get nothing on his planet and how rich of a society that planet he's on. So
Or poor. You don't know.
It's also
yeah,
maybe the mom, you said it could be done for the mom, Sarah, to say it's history. Maybe she's doing it as fiction to protect him from wanting to go out and find it. Don't fill his head with
mm,
something that could be true to endanger your
Not.
child.
uh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. So the problem is this is either a world building problem or it's a character problem in which the mom is just being dumb. And I would much rather be a world building problem purely because I actually like the characters for the most part in this movie. Um, but
But we don't know.
we don't know. That's the issue, and we don't really have much evidence in one way or the other. So we have to take it at face value. And taking it at face value is that it took 100 years for this stuff to become mythology and legend and fantastical. That's pretty much what we have uh, as a guarantee for the audience, which unfortunately is not enough.
Okay. Anyway, we're at the
Uh,
spaceport,
yeah, we're at the spaceport.
which looks
Uh,
beautiful.
it looks gorgeous. I actually wrote down here. I'm like, oh, it's just very wonderful to be inside a space opera. Again, this is nice. I just smiled.
And I
And
like
the ship is beautiful, and so is the captain.
I
There we
like how
go.
Jim is in normal clothes and attire that he was, and Dilbert's in this huge astronaut looking submarine
Yeah,
clothes.
It's
yeah,
played for joke, but I feel like that dumbed him down a lot.
yeah. I mean, there is a way that this could work in that, like, he bought the suit in case they go to a planet that they can't breathe in. Because I don't know, maybe their ships have air bubbles. But I don't, like I said, that's just it's one of those things. I was wondering, like, why do you need this? They don't need to wear this in space. Clearly, I wrote down several
Or
things
this
like,
station. He would at
yeah,
least know about this station. Whether or not he's been there is irrelevant. He would at least know this
yeah.
station.
Or maybe the
Uh,
reference is for James Cameron Avatar. It's supposed to help him breathe underwater. It's not really in space.
Who
shit, what was that?
knows?
Who
Oh,
Guess we'll
knows?
figure that out sometime. Um,
I
Anyway, the world building is terrible. Let's move on.
I wrote on my notes, Spaceport Moon is cool and full of safety hazards because there was no railing anywhere to
oh
be
no,
Yeah.
seen.
no, you can walk off
Actually,
unless it does
well,
like
actually, here's actually, I kind of that one doesn't bother me too much because the gravity of the moon will just pull you back in if you
yeah.
jumped off.
It's not a real moon.
Yeah, the gravity
So
of the
Crimson,
artificial gravity of the
okay,
moon would pull you back.
As we see on the ship, he dumps the leftovers from cooking off the ship, implying it falls downwards.
I okay, you know what? You're right. Artificial gravity doesn't make sense. Fuck.
artificial gravity is one way, just one flooring. It's not cubed. It's not encompassing. It's just one floor.
Yeah, you may as well have magnetized boots. That would work better. Because
There's no
Yeah.
I mean,
buildings
like
on the bottom
the
of the station.
I mean, there was I tried to figure out a good example, but one of the short stories I read in my class in college. Well, I didn't write this, but I thought it was really cool. Is one of the things people did as like a youth uh kind of like testing yourself, proving your bravery sort of thing, is they would jump off of their ship and go as far out into your gravity bubble, but the gravity would eventually pull you back in. So the kind of test of your courage was how far are you willing to go out, almost reaching the end of your bubble, but before it pulls you back in.
Mhm.
So it's but in that instance, obviously the artificial gravity is a bubble. Well, here it's just a floor, which is
Yeah.
not good. Um,
Yeah.
So
I
unfortunately,
mean, we didn't see anyone walk off the
I forgot
station,
about the
but
yeah. I forgot you about the whole dumping the thing off because I assumed it was a bubble. Fuck, world building is horrible. Moving on.
Yeah.
something that might not be horrible is Ryder. What do you think about the look of the ship? Because I know you really
Oh,
like structures of ships.
oh yeah, I loved it. I want to get a model of this ship. It looked fucking cool. I have a lot of I have a lot of favorite color schemes, but and I mind you, blue and white don't really they're not my favorite color scheme. The times where that changes though is any time it's related to something nautical. I will love that color scheme to death. White and blues are just chef's kiss for me. So I love the rigging. I love the sails. I love the color scheme of the ship. It's a beauty. I love it.
And Crimson, what did you think of the look of the ship?
I think all the ships in this look good. Even the simplicity of the longboats. I think it all looked good for the world.
Yeah,
That's it.
I love. I mind you, I love all the ships as well. I'm just gushing about this particular ship since you asked.
Gotcha. I think all the ships do match very well and look cool. The combination between the sci-fi elements and steampunk versus to the, I guess, modern normal look of the time to blend the two. And then we get an introduction to members of the crew.
Uh,
Oh God.
this
Anyway.
freaking slug. Get
Oh,
the
Yeah.
darn thing
flatulence.
off this screen and out of my movie.
I thought that was a good
um.
joke.
No,
eh,
this is a stupid joke.
yeah. I mean, I just
They
it,
parody it kind of in
look.
Tropic
I mean,
Thunder with Jack
have a
Black's.
little more faith in your children, okay, writers. Seriously, you can write good comedy for children and adults. You
It's a
can do
fart
both.
Yeah, there's some
joke.
good
Believe in you.
jokes in this, and it's the whole character's a fart joke.
Yeah, I know.
At least it only pops up, what, twice? 3 times?
Too many.
No, too many.
Twice where the fart joke is prevalent. The rest they're
He's just in the
just
background.
him. Yeah. So
For
at least
I
they didn't
speak fluent
drive it into. At
flatula.
least they didn't drive it into the ground. But
Yeah.
I was a little bit annoyed.
And then
Uh,
we meet Mr. Arrow.
Mr. Arrow.
Mr. Arrow. Uh, is he a rock creature?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, he's
so.
Korg.
Yeah.
He is,
Korg.
he is kind of Korg. Yeah.
Arrow, you are now Korg. Congratulations. I thought he was a good first mate.
Oh,
The perfect first
he
mate.
was actually a really good first mate. Did listen to exact orders and yeah.
And he reinforced it to the crew as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
will not listen to slander of our captain.
Yep, good first mate. I like him. I also like his attire because his attire is like, in a way, it was the opposite of Captain Amelia. So they kind of had like they're clearly like they have a long history together. That it's very short. In that like the delivery of it's very short, but we understand there's a long history between the two of them.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
trust built between the two.
Yeah.
And we also get introduced to Captain Amelia.
Yes, we do.
And Ryder's jaw hit the floor, and there was people were asking, is the sink overflowing? And he goes, no, that was just my drool. Sorry.
Nah, I do have some more hard eyes here, admittedly, but uh, I do like my smart female characters that you know. Uh, there's not really much you could say here without dumping on Marvel, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh,
Okay.
Uh,
I was curious if you're gonna bring up Marvel.
yeah, I'm gonna try to avoid dunking on Marvel here. Captain Amelia is she's a very competent character and charismatic. She holds herself well. Um, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on her. Uh,
Yeah, she insults Delbert because he's an idiot. Um, by I don't know. Dumbledore's a weird character because he's supposed to be smart, but he's constantly shown as stupid. It's very weird.
He's intelligent in like with regards to worldly things, but he does not understand people.
Yeah, he is terrible with social interactions, and I think Sarah is the only person he has constant conversations with, and that's the only person he can actually talk with. Everyone
Mm,
else is complete stranger, and it's really awkward for him.
yeah. Um,
It was interesting because Amelia was talking to him about loose lips sink ships, right?
yeah.
Um, and she's like, "All right, hand me the map." I'm like, "Okay, is he going to be like? Did he just learn like you told me not to trust anybody? I'm going to keep the map with me." I'm like, "Okay, let's see his growth immediately." No, he's just like, "Pass it over, Jim."
And just chucks the map.
Oh,
And
yeah,
she just puts it in her lock and key, which is smart, mind you. But there's a whole other facet of problems that are introduced in this scene. The doc hired this crew.
yes,
Um,
yes, he did.
He hired the
I
crew, and then the captain talks to him
th-
about how she doesn't like the crew. And is it
yeah,
because of price? Because they were
no, no, no,
cheap?
They look
no.
like scumbags.
They look like scumbags. I don't. I can't. I'm not gonna believe for a second that this timid, unsociable doctor hired this crew.
I can believe he hired the crew by paper and never actually met them.
Well, no, because Silver
Okay,
said
I
they
mean
built up this whole reputation of good guys for this
That could be a lie.
that I mean he says that in
to
discussion with
his
his
crew.
crew.
Yeah,
So, like he says, he worked really hard to get them on this ship. So, uh, this is a problem. One, Captain Amelia would have her own crew. It's her own ship. I don't know where
that I
they
find
went.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
Actually,
I don't know where they went.
that's a good
Um,
question. We don't know the time jump from the transition of Dilbert's observatory house to the port.
presumably a week, but they were talking about leaving the next day. So
That's true.
I'm giving the writers more credit here that a week passed. I know that they
with
left a
how
line of
fast these
dialogue.
ships go, yeah, I'd safely say less than a week to get to
Yeah.
that moon
Um,
or port.
yeah. So yeah, I have no idea where Captain Amelia's original crew is because I would have assumed she has her own ship and crew, and the fact that the doctor. Okay, so it's played in a way like they're renting out her ship with his crew, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Seconded.
It seems because she never brought it up, she doesn't have a crew of her own, it sounds like, because it does feel like this is her ship and how she controls it and, does everything with it. I do think
Okay,
the Legacy is her ship, but I don't think she has a crew, or if she has a trusted crew, it I don't know if it was a price point situation, like it was too much for Dilbert to purchase because he paid
They
for the
should have said that
crew.
then.
Yeah, he paid for the
uh,
crew. He didn't pay for the captain.
this is all. Uh, yeah, like I said, I'm assuming he rented the ship specifically. He rented out her ship, and he just happens to stuff and fill it with the crew he bought, quote unquote. The problem is that doesn't work because Captain Amelia would have her own crew if she has her own ship. Like this is not her maiden voyage, very clearly.
Oh yeah, very experienced.
Yeah. If it was her ship's maiden voyage, then there could be a little bit more in that way of me buying. I would still have trouble with it, but I would probably buy it more that he just supplemented her entire crew with his own. But it's uh no, it's very very contrived.
Yeah.
Curious why she signed on then.
There should
Well,
be no
that's a
reason for her to
problem as
sign on.
well
I mean,
because it's just
I
her and Arrow.
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah. Like I would assume that she I wouldn't have accepted this expedition. I'm like, no, I'm good go. I'm gonna do my own crew here, you know?
especially since she knows what they're going for.
Yeah.
You want people you trust when you're going for treasure. She points out these people aren't trustworthy. So it doesn't make any sense for her longevity either.
Yeah.
You're
So
bound
I
for mutiny, which is what happens.
yeah, we're introduced to the concept of mutiny very fucking quickly after this scene from the crew. So it's it's one of those things that this is what hold stuff like this is what really holds the movie back from being great. Because I mind you, I have a lot of personal love for this movie, but objectively, it's riddled with problems like this. Because this is something that, in theory, you could answer simply with a few lines of dialogue, but it's uh we're just left kind of we're left with nothing essentially as to why this is happening. We just know that this is it. We have a captain and a first mate who own a ship, and presumably because they own a ship and are very experienced, would have their own crew. But the doctor hired their crew and brought them onto the ship.
To go on the biggest treasure hunt ever.
Yeah, and he's a doctor. Presumably, he went to fund. He said he was going to fund an expedition. You wouldn't hire some random crew. You would go through the state to hire your crew, which makes it worse. Which which is a reference to like she makes reference to like the Interstellar Academy or whatever later in the movie. But I don't. It's just it's such a flabbergast for me. This whole
Well, the only
aspect.
explanation I could think about him going towards government for funds or crew is they'd want an explanation of why he needs them.
Yeah, well,
And
presumably Captain Amelia is from the Interstellar Academy because she makes reference to it. Like she would make a
well, if he
recommendation.
hired her, she's obviously freelance at this point.
Yeah. Um,
So she probably just
anyways,
has ties or knows
Yeah.
people from the thing.
riddled with problems. I do like Arrow and I really like Captain Amelia. I think they're very strong characters. Um,
I like how
but
witty she is.
yes, another
It's very
core trait that
articulate.
I like about her as well. She is not willing to throw barbs at you. I mean, she's always willing to throw barbs at you, and I appreciate that.
A ludicrous parcel of driveling galoots.
Poetry.
Ma'am. And then Arrow
Oh,
leads Dilbert and Jim below deck.
just before that, when they lock and key the map, her first mate just teleported into the room.
Oh, did he?
Hmm.
Arrow
Yes.
wasn't there before?
No, he was not. It was just her, Jim, and the doctor for the whole conversation. And at the end, he just is behind her at her desk. Arrow just teleported in.
Hmm. Okay.
Again, I don't understand how spatial difference works in this fucking universe.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just an
Didn't
error
catch
then.
that.
That's an error.
Yes, kitchen with Silver and Morph. Um, I was teetering on Jim being kind of it's not racist, but I guess this profiling.
As
All
a cyborg.
cyborgs are the same
Yeah, making a presumption, yeah. Obviously, it is the same cyborg because
because,
silhouettes
of
are
course, yeah.
because convenience is abundance in the script. Um, but uh, I do like Silver. I like their first interaction.
Silver is
Yeah,
my favorite character. It's
Uh,
probably no
Probably,
surprise as to why.
yeah, he's probably my favorite character too, and no surprise as to why. But
he's definitely the
obviously,
fattest onion.
since I'm getting made fun of it, Captain Lynn is probably my second favorite. So
Crimson, what'd you say?
So he's definitely the fattest onion. He's got layers.
Fattest onion. Okay. I thought that's what I heard, but I didn't understand it. Okay. Yeah.
um,
And it's just such a cool element. At the time, very experimental, but such a cool thing to have one character. It's not like Ben, where Ben was fully CGI versus a 2D. John Silver encapsulates, that's not the right pronunciation, but Has
No,
both the 2D hand,
encapsulates this.
yeah, has both the 2D hand drawn animation and the 3D CGI on him as a character. And to me, it does not look off-putting. It might just because
Yeah,
the lighting added as well, so it didn't look too bright or too metallic and shiny. I think it would have been a lot worse if he was chromed.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, oh
The
yeah.
blending I thought was really good for him as well. There were a few, like I said, it have as with a lot of things in this movie, there are a few times where the difference just gets a little too much, but for the most part, he looks good.
I
Yeah,
like,
sometimes the tracking's a little off where like his cybernetic eye moves a little independently of his head, where it's a little off, like it
Yeah, and
doesn't
same with
catch
his
up in
leg, same
time.
with his arm. They move a little independently, but for the most part, it is good. It is well done.
Yeah.
I would say for 80% of the movie, I think it was good.
I like the first, just for the introduction, the first initial, like, going for the handshake and his hands full of knives. I think that's just a good foreshadowing of like his character,
Uh-huh.
as playing it off as a joke, but how dangerous he is and like how many weapons he has on him, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then in this scene, like the animation's also really well good for him. Where I think it's not great for Jim, but we'll get to that in a second. Um, uh, but yeah, I like him going through the motions of cooking and stuff like that, and he's talking down. He seems like a very jolly guy. Uh, trying to kind of work past the I guess the stigmatism that Jim walked in with, because you can see Jim's clear suspicion.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
A
and he also,
cyborg. I mean, he
a
even
yeah,
says
cyborg.
it.
he says it because the audience needs to be told. Because we're
Yes,
dumb.
the
Oh,
children
for
must
yeah,
know.
people who don't know what a cyborg is.
That's it is 2000. Well, no, it's 2002. Teen Titans is out, I think, so they would know.
No, wasn't that 2003 or 4?
Well, the only thing I can say between the distinction between those two is Cyborg is a cyborg, but that's his name. And to a kid, they're
Oh,
like, "Oh, this isn't him."
oh,
Versus like, what
okay, I
is a
see.
cyborg?
You mean like a literal name, like the
Yeah,
definition of what a cyborg
that
is?
might
Yeah,
help for a kid, kind of.
yeah, I could see that.
Teen Titans
I
2003.
Yeah,
Oh, it was after.
yeah. Whatever,
Okay.
1 year old. Always
Yeah, they
forget.
watch Teen Titans. That guy's not a pirate.
Hi, TV show.
Yeah, booyah, boo hoo. Um, I do think it's a nice little joke of the Bonzabi family stew, and he says that's a part of the family when the eyeball pops up. I thought that was pretty
Yep.
funny. Gives him
Wonder
definitely
what
this
was in that though.
jolly feel. Oh, something with an eyeball.
Yeah, they're eating somebody.
Uh,
Is there? Were there any animals in this that weren't like living sentient beings? I'm trying
Morph.
to remember.
Guess
Morph
what?
is
I
probably
guess
the closest you're gonna
Morph's
get to a pet.
sentient though.
Yeah,
He's not
but
really an animal.
I guess he counts like a parrot, right?
Yeah,
Because he
he
can
just
mimic
parrots back at you.
voices.
Yeah.
Another animal? I don't think there was any like other animals.
Yeah, all the animals we saw were humanoid.
Aliens. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
But yeah, I also really like Morph. Morph is just
Agreed.
pretty cool looking.
Morph's way better than Jim.
He's funnier than
I say
Jim.
that jokingly, but also truthful at the same time.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I guess
You
my
know, Morph is a little
since
traitor
guess
though.
guess who since they're dunking on Jim, may as well talk about the animation for Jim in this scene where he is interrogating. Not good. Um,
Oh no! What's stupid? Oh yeah, something like bones. You know, something with a cyborg crunch. I'm like,
yeah,
Jim. Oh my gosh.
Jim, please stop. Also, his animation's just not good. It rubbed me the wrong way here. I think the
The pan.
blending was off.
Oh, I'm like, was it the
And the
pan
hand
of the
motion,
camera?
the expressions, it was off for this scene. Um, Everything about Jim was wrong in this scene.
I can
uh,
I can kind of see and agree with you with the slow pan around of the camera to go around the kitchen during the interrogation.
yeah,
It kind of felt like Jim being 2D and Silver having the 3D element to him. Silver definitely popped out and looked better. It kind of reminds me of I don't know the exact like episode or movie or whatever it is, but it reminds me of like Fairly Odd Parents because those are 2D like flat characters, and when they try to do like a turnaround with them and that animation
Yeah.
turn, it looked like that kind of.
Yeah, it looked bad, unfortunately. Uh,
I also
yeah,
just don't like Jim's face or piercing,
I I
but the
mean, like
personal thing.
there is like I said, Jim's expressions are half and half for me because you can make someone like reserved and dour, but you can still like do a good job portraying his face in a 2D animation style. They did not do that. There
No,
when he like there are times where he gets really expressive, and those times are when he looks his best. I think as a character. Uh,
I I think I know what you mean, and there's one scene in particular which I think is might be the strongest character moment in the movie, where Jim looks really emotionally good.
yes.
Um, but I think also to help with the character of Jim that he's not angry over the death of Bones and that they're after Bones because Jim just met him. I think he's more fueled by the fact that if this cyborg is the cyborg that was talked about, he burned down his mom's home.
Oh yeah. No, I mean like that. See that there's character motivation for him to do want to figure it out. He's just dumb by going about it this way,
Oh
and
yeah,
the
at least he's
cinematography and
alone.
animation didn't help him.
That kind
Yeah,
of helped, but
yeah.
like he waited for Dilbert to leave. But
Yeah, so he could die at the hands of a cyborg alone. You're right.
no, I mean,
Like I said, there's motivation here. He's just being dumb.
yeah, if Cabin Boy's dead day one, you gotta.
I don't know. I like because they purely built. He's purely built off of like what we have of his backstory is he was purely raised on like adventuring tales and pirate stories. That you think that would be enough to clue him into not doing a direct approach?
um,
Um,
Something
I don't.
else.
Some I see from him, he's very abrasive, so I can, I can see it in his character to take the director out on it. Because
okay.
even Silver's like, you need to pick your battles, and
Yep.
so I think it fits with his character.
It
Fair
might
enough.
just be me, but a nice little detail I liked is the alien, whatever Silver is. I mean, being the cyborg, but his
Hmm.
before cybernetics or whatever, he's not human. Um, I like that the coloring of his neck to his face looks like scruff. It kind
Yeah,
of like
I thought it was like a fur lining or whatever,
yeah,
almost.
it like outlines like where a beard could be, which I think is just a nice detail um,
Mhm.
of the coloring of his alien.
Yeah. I agree. Uh, I
When
don't have
they
much to say on this scene. So
when they set sail and we get to see a little bit more of the crew setting things up.
yeah.
There's this one guy where evolution was very unkind to, where his eyes are in his mouth. Um,
Oh, the bald dude, the two piece that split
no,
guy.
not that guy.
Oh,
No,
okay.
he doesn't really get much of a he doesn't get any focus in this movie. It's just a background alien who's climbing the post of the ship. Um, yeah, he's got two eyes in his mouth. So I looked it up if there's any animals in nature that we know of today that have eyes in their mouths. And there's been two-sided frogs with extreme mutations with eyes in their mouths. That's all I could find.
Yeah.
I
I
can
definitely. I
I know
sorry.
something. Sorry, in the movie Beetlejuice, when they're transforming their forms, the husband and wife are transforming their forms. I believe the wife puts her eyes on her tongue, which is inside her mouth.
Yeah. Um, man, what a terrible existence. Just imagine that guy's breath having to have his mouth open all the time, so we can see, and having food smack his eyes while he's
I mean,
chewing.
like I think I've talked to Crimson about my monsters that I make for my fantasy world that I write. Uh, that's probably the only other time I've seen the brave and the weird as Tia Dalma puts it, um, to this degree. Um, so
Yeah,
it
it's
is definitely an odd creature.
I think it's a stupid design, but that's all I'll state.
Background character, no name.
Yeah, that background, no name character
Pirate number 3.
that makes no sense, but it's fine.
And then the ship takes off.
Oh yeah, my commentary for this is solar sails. Love it. Such an underutilized sci-fi concept.
And Dilbert goes flying. Like
Yes.
he
Yeah.
rockets.
Yeah.
The
South
problem
by
with me,
Southwest doesn't work. It's not for space
it's,
guys. Just saying.
something doesn't really make sense to me is how fast the ship can go. Seems to be all over the place.
Well, it's got solar sails
So
and like a
It
back
doesn't
engine
seem
rocket.
incredibly fast until we get to the part I found quite stupid, but maybe a writer could educate me when we get to it with
sure,
the
maybe.
black hole bit.
It's better than Zathura. Take
Oh,
that.
here I got it for you, Crimson. It doesn't.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy or stupid or
I
anything.
I honestly there is. I thought a more it would make more sense if they slingshotted around it, but they don't do that.
No, or jumping ahead
Yeah,
here.
it is.
Um,
Yeah. Uh, the Magellan waves are a thing, but it's I don't. Granted, I don't know the physics of solar cells all that well, mostly because I don't use it in my sci-fi's particularly all that much. Um, so I could be missing something as well. But I know solar cells are do twofold. One, you're just going to be constantly forever speeding up, and two, it will also help you power your ship. So there is a there is
there's got to
a
be a cap though, right?
I like I said,
It's like
Mm,
solar
it
panels have a cap,
from
but
what
I
I
don't know if the solar
understand
sails
of
do.
from what I understand of the visual for the black hole scene. Well, sorry, we jumped ahead, but
Yeah,
is uh is the solar cells in of itself also give the ship momentum, but it also powers the nitro engine or whatever that's at
yeah,
the
powers
base
the
of
engine.
the rudder of the ship, which works in theory. I don't know if it'd be enough to escape a black hole directly.
sir,
Uh,
solar sails at 400%. Boy, will you look at that.
yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, 2009 Star Trek vibes. Escaping a black hole via an explosion.
Mm.
Man, this
Doesn't
movie,
work.
the Star
Hilarious.
Trek movie, 2009 stole a lot from this. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and you know what? JJ loves MacGuffins too. I think JJ just stole a lot from this movie. I think he likes Treasure Planet. I think he likes this Treasure Planet a lot.
Oh, oh, Crimson, I'm mistaken. There are
Oh,
animals.
okay.
There's like the manatees and the whales.
Oh, the space
Yeah,
animals.
Wells.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's true. So
that
they could
kind
be
of
eating
play
one of
like
those.
they play like seagulls, which I thought was such a creative thing. It's very like navy pirate look, but spacified, and the
Yeah,
creativity of how to do it was it's very cool.
they could have been fishing in space off their ship and hooking flying stingrays.
Maybe that would have been a cool scene, like kind of in the montage bit with Jim, if they were like harpooning things for food and like tugging them down to the ship.
Since we jumped so far ahead, going back,
Yeah, we don't want to miss the two very important characters,
indeed,
Mr.
Mr.
Bucket.
Mop,
Yeah, Mr. Mop, and what was it Miss
Mrs.
Mr.
Bucket?
Buck.
Bucket.
Yeah.
Very important. They get a lot of screen time,
Yes.
probably more than stupid slug guy.
I'm like that.
Thankfully,
They might have more screen time than Ben.
mm, maybe
It's
I
a
don't
close
know.
call.
I do like the sci-fi jargon. Yeah, it's I already pointed out my problem with the coordinates and cardinal directions, but I do like the sci-fi jargon that the captain spouts, Captain Amelia, to the crew when she's directing them out and directing their ship. It's very small, but I do appreciate it because
Yeah.
for the most part can make some sense in this universe, even if I have issues with it.
Um, do you think that Silver's crew could pilot this ship?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna say
So why
yes.
didn't they kill them relatively quick?
I'm
Because they
surprised.
are
I'm surprised that
overwhelmingly outnumbered.
yeah, I'm surprised they just. I like Captain Amelia and I like Arrow. They would just be dead. They would just. fucking-
Yeah,
Why on Earth? Why on any planet whatsoever would you? Because they were there before their guests arrived, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, no. They Amelia and
but they
Arrow
needed
would
the
be dead.
guests for the map, so they wouldn't have done it before.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't. It wouldn't have mattered because if in the intelligent world where these characters acted like good pirates, they would have killed a million arrow long before the guests would have arrived. They would have just commandeered the ship as their own, and they would have just waited around for the guests, get the map from them eventually, and then set off on their journey
And
Well,
they would
together.
have used Dilbert as leverage to get Jim to cooperate
Possibly, yeah,
to use the
well,
map.
it's under the assumption that the guests wouldn't know what the captain looks like if
yeah.
they
It's
were
in the
going to
assumption. Yeah.
trick him. So I think that's too risky to go immediately to overthrow the ship. But once they're out of like port and away from like habited habited space and like take them out
As you can
quick.
see, mutiny is a discussion happening like almost immediately.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know why they didn't do it immediately. Obviously, for the story's sake, we needed Silver and Jim to bond first, to cause conflict within Silver's own self. But
And it
on the
isn't.
mutiny side, it makes no
Yeah.
sense why they
It also
waited.
isn't shown of like what sections of space are patrolled or taken. I mean, if it was that close to the port, would that have been a problem, or no one would have known? I mean, no one. They didn't come in contact with any other ship, so I don't know if that's also a thing that was on their mind because they did wait
Yeah,
till they got to the planet.
if we had some point where they get pulled over by cops for a general inspection, then we could see why they'd hold up because Amelia could be like, "All right, here's the ship's registration," and all that
mhm.
nonsense. That could explain why they didn't do the mutiny earlier, but we didn't get that.
That would also strengthen if they saw Silver and like didn't recognize him at all, because that could help strengthen Jim earlier of just being like knowing his type and not keeping record on him.
Mm.
Mm,
If it's those same type of police robots or whatever. Not the exact same ones from the beginning of the movie, but you
yeah,
know,
some form of police.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I think this definitely could have strengthened from pit stop by the police on him.
Just a heads up, fellas. I got half an hour, maybe 45
Ryder's
minutes.
got half an hour and then he's got to skedaddle away.
Yeah.
So we get introduced to, I believe the character's name is Scroop, but the Spider
Yep.
Psycho dude.
Yeah.
What a cool voice. Also,
I'm menacing bad guy,
yeah. Cabin.
and I
One.
want to kill kids quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? I do like Jim's back sass a little bit,
Oh
but
yeah.
again, doesn't really. I don't know. It just didn't. He seemed very thick-skulled here.
Yeah, I mean it's going for the whole pick your battle thing. That's
Yeah,
that's
like I
that's
said,
it.
it's definitely it's going for a theme here. It's just weekly going for the theme here.
I like how Silver takes full leadership and prompt as soon as he grabs um Spider Psycho, and he looks so sad and confused. He's like,
Yes.
What am I doing incorrectly, sir?"
Yeah. There's a lot of subtle exchanges between Silver and Bug Guy, Spider Psycho over here. They send each other a lot of glances and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised there wasn't like a mutiny turn onto Silver from him. He said he kept
mutiny
going
on the mutiny.
soft, but yeah, like stabbing in the back or something.
Yeah. I mean, like every
He
time that
probably
he
would
probably
have if
Given
Silver
the
didn't.
chance.
yeah.
Yeah, put his foot down. Yeah. See, he
But
was going
Silver,
soft.
so yeah, Silver also seems far more. Um, what's the right word?
Empathetic.
No, not empathetic. Like dangerous. Like he's got far more weapons and like twists and
Oh,
turns being a cyborg against Scroop. Like Scroop's real.
he's far more of a threat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What is pincers?
yeah, he's got pincers. Um, yeah, and then Arrow kind of keeps everyone in line.
Yes, the chef gets a bit flirty with the captain.
Yeah.
Uh, she shuts him down and tells him to get back to job.
Oh,
I do
yeah.
like that.
Oh,
Uh,
when Scroop was attempting to kill Jim, which extreme already, but
yeah,
fine.
Extreme on top deck in front of anyone.
Yes.
everyone.
Clear sight of presumably Arrow watching everybody as a
Oh
dog with
yeah,
a tail.
transparently.
Um, and we just have Morph watching him about to die. I'm like, Morph, what are you doing?
Yeah,
No.
Morph doesn't know him that much right now.
Yeah,
But
He's
he's
just some
Morph.
kid. Well, Morph has probably been around for them the whole time. Morph was probably around when they burned down the inn. Morph has seen Silver and the crew murder plenty of people.
yeah,
Morph probably wouldn't care. It wasn't until Morph actually started interacting with Jim and hanging out with him that he grew attached to him, much like Silver.
Yeah.
Which is
I
why I
think.
think Morph and Silver get along so well.
Yeah, I think it was in this once after the chef helped Jim. Sorry, Silver helps Jim. I think this is when I recognized the silhouette when he puts the hat on. That's
Oh,
when I that,
okay.
that to me was when I realized that they were the bad crew from earlier.
Mm,
So I realized around here is when I got the idea that they were the
Interesting. You didn't take
yeah.
it when Jim goes, cyborg. Oh my god.
I
No, I
mean,
thought that was
I got
profiling.
He's the
I,
bad
I
guy.
thought I thought that was profiling. They kind of do a good job of then him being nice and dissuading it a little bit. Though they have that little bit at the end. It's like we'll need to keep an eye on him more. That's when I got the idea that they would be the bad guys, but it wasn't confirmed for me until they were all together and he had his hat on that I saw the silhouettes
Gotcha.
from earlier. This is for me where it was confirmed. Sorry. Um, and then I have on my notes the whole like they different crew, original crew, and that's where we already kind of went over that. So
Yeah. And then
uh,
Morph keeps an eye on Jim. Morph is a good, not slapstick, but he's good visual comedy
yeah.
Yeah.
compared to the rest of them because he can just turn into the comedic piece of what he's doing.
Hmm. And I kind of like the montage between Jim and Silver.
I think they took the fact that it's a ship a little too literally with the space barnacles.
Eh,
I,
I forgot about
I didn't understand what the point of that
are they
was.
it's
barnacles? Or are they just like
They were
asteroid
barnacles.
bits?
it.
They were
Honestly, it would be
barnacles.
better if they were asteroid bits, but they're barnacles.
You scraping barnacles.
Yeah. Um.
Just be the pirate life.
Yeah. They have the whole father son question. So I like that it's also interspliced with his history.
Mhm.
Um. And this is also a good excuse for Silver as a character as well to why he's softening up to Jim because he likes him. The kid Jim's a good kid ultimately, as he discovers. He was just missing a father figure the whole time. I guess I don't know.
The music that plays here, I don't think fit at all.
To me, that was just a normal Disney song used. They did it in like Meet the
I feel like Disney
Robinsons.
songs
They've
usually
done it in.
fit though.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
it's not. It's not. Uh, Now I got to get some musician names. It's not Phil Collins from Brother Bear or Tarzan. It's not. Uh, oh God, I'm gonna get destroyed in the comments. What's the
Dun
guy
dun
who did?
dun.
I know, I'm dead. Who's the guy who did Rocket Man?
Elton John?
Thank you, Elton John. It's not Elton John who did Lion King. What other big musicians were in Disney movies?
No idea. Well, it's less
Those are
the
the
singer
two
and more
that come to
just
mind.
the song that played didn't really match the tone of the scene to me.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was very middle ground. It wasn't. It
Mhm.
didn't off-put it. It didn't like not fit, and I'm like, this is completely weird. But it also wasn't like, wow, this really strengthens, and it was just okay.
I don't know. It's stuck out as not good to me for the scene, which usually doesn't happen.
And this is the
What about
part
you, Ryder?
with the you got the potential of greatness in you.
Yeah, and the vocals, all that stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that, as I said earlier, is a great emotional example showing of Jim. One of my favorite character parts in the movie
Mhm.
is the motivation from the quote unquote bad guy to the good guy. That was just cool.
Mhm.
It just does. It makes Silver not feel like a bad guy the whole time. He's just this mentor character who's got ill intentions.
Mhm. Yeah, I can agree with that. Well, I guess my touch on the song is, yeah, the song is a little odd here, mostly because I'm not used to pop music in my older Disney titles, my 2D Disney movies.
Mm.
Um, so it was definitely off-putting for me, but I don't think it was horribly out of place with what they were trying to go for. I like the credit song more, or the one that plays at the end. Same artist, I think,
Yeah, that one
but
felt appropriate. Jim was doing the dishes, and Silver was impressed that he got it all done, and he was proud of him. He put a
Who's
yeah,
coat
jacket?
and
on him.
he puts a blanket over him.
Was it a
His
blanket?
jacket, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
it's
a
his jacket.
yeah.
He's growing
And
soft.
they yeah, they flew next to a comet. How dangerous and reckless.
And it's
They
kind of
didn't
cool
through
to
by.
see
They
that
flew
Jim
in
could
it.
drive a skiff really well because, of all his practice.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's also
I
nice
like
to
that.
see all the bonding with Silver. You don't see
Yeah,
Jim like interacting with Dilbert or Arrow.
yeah, because no one's made the effort. Like he was stuck. He was literally stuck with Silver. So Silver kind of realized that.
He's stuck
I
with Jim.
guess, yeah. So he just decided to, delve into that a little bit, and it kind of, bleeding heart sort of mentor way for him being an ill-intentioned character that I enjoyed. I really liked their montage together and the intercut with the backstory of the dad that left.
Oh, that was a bit. Yeah, that was a good point to
Good
show
montage.
of Jim. Even though it's using the music, I guess the lyrics and everything, if you want to go with that, but it's also the backstory shown without explanation from Jim. It's not Jim talking
Yeah,
about what happened. It's almost like a silent movie kind of thing
I
added in.
I showed my dad my ship I made, and he walked upstairs.
He rubbed my head disappointed and left the next day, never to see
yeah,
me again.
yeah. I do appreciate the more showing rather than telling. Um, and this in this instance, because I think that works. There are times where telling a story is indicative of characters that will give you enough to like where it's more important that you hear it from the character's voice, the backstory, rather than showing the backstory, because that happens. But here, I think it's a very good use of show don't tell.
Crimson, anything on the montage you want to touch on?
Not really. There was something about the comment I was gonna bring up. I was looking down at my notes for most of this comment bit. Was there a reason they were at the comment other than we get to see Jim's flying
It was
capabilities?
just a joyride.
I think it was
Okay.
just a joyride.
All right. I
I
was just
mean,
thinking if Amelia would allow this because they'd probably have to stop to allow them to have this little fun bit.
well,
I don't know if
since
Amelia
they're
knew
but
about
since
it.
the ships are like rocket boosted and have their own solar powers, I don't think she would care all that much.
Yeah, I think the skiff could easily get back to the ship. The ship wasn't going very fast.
The ship was set to cruising speed.
The comet bit did slightly remind me of Wally when Wally's touching
Oh, when he
the.
put his hand out.
Yeah,
Yeah, good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right. We have the supernova now.
yeah.
yes. The star's
Uh,
exploding.
Oh well, we actually. Well, hold on. I got one more good line before that. I got the from Silver. You give up a few things chasing a dream.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
how
I
wise cyborg.
Yeah, I really loved that line. It was all the stuffed with subtlety. It was very ham-fisted, but it was stuffed with all the subtlety of history. You know?
And
Yeah.
he looks so sorrowful. He's like looking
Yeah,
down at his own arm. It's a
like
real
you can
moment to
see the
him.
story.
Yeah.
Without him having to tell it, like something happened clearly on his journey.
Yeah. So supernova. What are the odds? Would they have known? And would they have survived? Are the questions asked here?
Uh, Survival, no. There is some intelligence here. I like they use the guns to keep away the asteroids from hitting their sails. Um, Obviously the big one being the problem one, because that one, how we get introduced to the black hole. Um, I am more fine with them surviving the supernova than I am with them the black hole.
Oh, the black hole didn't make sense to you?
Uh,
Uh,
no, they both are problematic. But I'm saying with how I understand this world's technology to work, it makes more sense that they would survive a supernova than a black hole.
Oh, I see.
Springs. Do you know why a black hole is a black hole?
Um, well, I've seen Interstellar, so it leads to a bunch of bookcases.
And
So
I could be
That's funny.
wrong. Correct me. It's been a while since I've studied black holes, but isn't it that it's so strong it pulls in light to where
Yes.
there is none?
Yeah.
So
Light cannot escape.
they had to be going faster than light to escape it.
but the
Um,
explosion's faster than light. That's why it's going upwards and moving outwards of the black
like I
hole.
said, Magellan waves are a thing. Like black
Yeah.
holes are horizontal. I'm just gonna describe the visual. So if you're looking at a black hole horizontally, the Magellan waves are the light being spewed out at either ends, because that's usually it does shoot out stardust. That is like Magellan waves do that, but it is very very hard to escape a black hole. Which is why I'm saying I would believe it more if they slingshot it or slungshot around it, because you can do that. We do that around our sun to launch spacecraft. So and we slingshot stuff around our moon all the time to launch our things faster. So there is a line you can walk with slingshotting around in a black hole. The problem is they don't do that. They just get sucked in and luckily escape.
And I just wrote in caps that they're dead.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
they
I
also would have
wrote.
been cooked, no matter how good their whatever invisible wall they have on their ship to contain air. Uh,
Yeah,
they're cooked,
yeah.
even
Their
if they don't
cells
get
would have
sucked
burnt.
in. Nothing man-made could survive a star.
Yeah.
Well, there's the rub right there. It's not. Who says it's man-made?
I don't think it's a magic ship.
Oh,
This
it
is
could.
clearly an engineered vessel. If it was magic, it could be explained. But anything that could be forged would be melted or disintegrated by a sun or star.
Yeah, I think tungsten would even have an issue with it.
Oh yeah.
There's a point that has to reach, but that wouldn't last. That would last the longest, but it would still eventually succumb.
To involve the um, black hole, how do you two feel about Arrow's death?
Okay.
Um,
The fact that no one, well, the crew doesn't matter, but uh, I don't know. I'm trying to think if people would have noticed that are people. I guess Jim or Amelia would have noticed Arrow
was
getting killed.
Jim wasn't okay, Jim's tying lifelines, so he would
Yeah.
probably know where all the crewmates are because of that.
He would.
Um,
Well,
Mhm.
I don't know if you know which lifeline goes to which person. He just know that they're all tied.
He would have seen that one tugging because it's getting yanked away.
yeah, he would have seen that one tugging because his job was to watch the lifelines. So
Yeah.
someone would have noticed. It's very lucky. As for Arrow's death, I didn't feel anything
It was
until
dark.
we hear Amelia talk about Arrow.
Okay. I think the lifeline thing is fine. I think him screaming and yelling would be a big indicator, like Arrow is screaming kind of thing. But I think it's noisy enough that it can't be heard because everyone's running around doing things, shooting, all the noise. So I think it gets drowned out, which is
Should there
fine.
be noise in space?
In space, no. In the bubble, oh yeah, absolutely.
What bubble? We didn't see a bubble.
The gravity bubble.
Well, we didn't see a bubble. We're making that up.
But yeah, well,
You wrote that for them.
in the gravitational pull area, there's noise.
Gravity equals noise. Got it.
By this movie, I'm going with what this movie's showing me. Um,
Anyways, world building is a disaster.
Yeah.
Moving on.
and I do agree with Crimson. It's a dark death for a Disney movie.
Oh
That's
yeah,
pretty. That's out.
that's pretty fucking metal.
You usually don't see good guys killed that way.
Yeah, I mean he's not. He's not killed on camera. Like he's not neck slit or blood or anything. He's
Yeah.
just gone.
He
Like
just
he's just
disappeared.
jettisoned
gonna.
into space.
I
crushed
nodded a
in a
couple
black
times. I
hole.
nodded a couple times while watching this. I'm like, all right, movie, all right, committing to having stakes here.
Yeah.
And like I said,
That's death number 2.
I didn't really feel anything until, like I said, Captain Amelia talked about Arrow. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't really know
To the crew of people
Arrow
who
as a
don't care.
character, really.
yeah,
We know his characterization, but not his character.
yeah.
It's interesting that Scroop's got some acting under his belt.
Terrible. How did they not see through that?
I know it's so bad. And
Oh,
also like
our poor Arrow
I
didn't
think
have his lifesaver there. Oh.
was Jim did Jim had to have left the lifelines behind, which is already problematic enough.
He did,
But
but it's also interesting that Scroop cut it, and then someone had to untie it.
yeah, like I said, that's very obvious considering where the captain is looking and where the lifelines are located. It's in obvious plain sight. The only reason we don't see it is because of the camera movements, but the world exists outside the camera. So
Yeah, Jim would have been watching the whole time, and then I turned around for Amelia's speech. Yeah, there wouldn't have really been any time
yeah,
where a crew member would have done it without being seen.
How do you think it would have? Well, nah, we don't need to touch on that. I was gonna ask, how do you think it would have played out if they just found the rope cut, but all the blame put onto Jim.
They
because
would
the
have been
lifeline was
able.
gone.
They would have been able to tell it was a cut and not a tear.
Yeah,
yeah.
So they would know sabotage.
All solar sails secure, Captain. Well done. Release them now.
that was good. I thought that was funny.
Yep, I love it.
Make up your mind.
I'm pretty sure we've said the same thing to each other at one point in Sea of Thieves. So.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Drop anchor. Hi, Captain. All right, raise anchor. Aye, Captain. Okay.
I liked that Silver was feeling guilty that Jim was getting in trouble there, or feeling
Yeah,
I
guilty
like.
of
I
himself
like
as
that
well.
guilty.
I
and
like
and I
that.
actually got a little okay. Another aspect to bring up about Crab Boy killing Arrow here.
It wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. And what do we think about his decision to do this, where they all could potentially die in a black hole?
I don't know his position on the ship. I don't know
Well, I
what
mean,
his
like,
job is on.
I mean, the logical
Okay.
choice of like, we all need to work together, or we're all going to die, and he still chose to do this.
I think Scroop might just be the most homicidal of the crew. Just wants to
Definitely.
murder people.
Oh, he's definitely
Um,
fucking homicidal, yeah. But I mean, like,
he
there's
saw an opportunity and he went for
Yeah.
it.
I don't think he
Um,
necessarily likes this whole acting, play nice bit when they're
Mhm.
such a just burn down a hole in for a treasure kind of people. It's not his
All right.
style. So I think getting that little spice to his life again is part of his character. But I also like that Silver was angry at him because it wasn't the plan to go kill people. So it wasn't
Yeah.
Silver's
yeah,
idea as lead to pin things on Jim. Then that also could just be Scroop's because Jim kind of got in his face to pin something on him. So do you think Scroop, the Spider Psycho, had the idea this whole time to pin something on Jim?
no,
No,
he was
I
just
think it
going
was
to
just
kill
spur of the
Jim.
moment.
Okay.
um, I think what little we know of Scroop, and how bloodthirsty he is, he's totally willing to take the opportunity to get rid of Arrow, even if he's in a dangerous situation.
Mhm. Fair enough.
Does this
Uh,
ship have a brig? Did someone get locked in the brig
they
on this
yeah
ship?
Probably
they make
would.
a comment. They make a comment about the brig.
Okay,
There's a line from Arrow when crew were infighting. He actually says if you caught you infighting again, you'll end up in the brig.
okay. Because I remember a part where at the end of the movie, most of that crew's like tied up in rope, but I don't remember it being in like cells or something. They're just
Yeah,
like below deck.
we'll get there. Well, I mean, I won't get there, but you guys will. I have a problem with that too. Where an injured captain and a doctor was able to subdue them, and yeah,
And a gun,
um,
the only gun,
yeah,
the only weapon.
uh, yeah,
I do something we touched on the black hole of like all the scientifics of how bad it is. Something I do like is how visually cool it looks.
oh yeah, it does
It looks
look visually awesome.
awesome.
I have no idea how these solar cells work, but in this scene, but it was still cool.
The explosion, coloring, and shadows, and all the lighting of it, all it was very cool.
Gorgeous. Um. Uh. Oh, this is another little funny tidbit from my notes. This is mostly for people making fun of me that I'm okay with. Captain Amelia says, "Compliments to your astronomy," and I literally wrote, "Huh, a captain after my own heart."
Yep. I knew a writer was gonna have something for the captain.
Yeah,
Knew
we
it.
all knew it.
It's his type of
I mean, I
character.
don't hide it. I'm very open
Oh, I
about my
know.
type, my tastes. So,
Correction, we know, and hopefully the
yeah.
audience by now might know.
Don't worry, audience. I will let you know when I like a girl character on screen.
Um, so we get, assuming we're done with Silver's little talk there. Morph turned into Jim Shoe, kind of
Oh,
conveniently chased him downstairs because I doubt
whoa,
it
whoa,
was
whoa, whoa!
Morph's
Hang on, hang on,
intention.
hang on! You missed the fart
Okay,
joke.
Uh,
we missed
or
not only the
whatever.
fart trick. We need to talk about Silver comforting Jim over the loss.
That's true.
Okay.
Um, and like I said, one of the things I said earlier. I like the looks that Silver and Spider Cycle give each other. Group. Um, there is a moment after the whole Jim's getting in trouble. You can see them exchange a glance. Like very pointedly. I kind of like that subtlety because that's enough for audience members to pick up that they're in disagreement or there's something wrong here, that it was totally unplanned and things like
Yeah, oh, I
that.
agree with
And
that.
then obviously we have the whole Silver comforting Jim scene, and then you get the whole Captain getting in too deep. Like he realizes, oh, I care about him, and then Screw, of course, overhears the conversation.
Of course.
Of course.
He's got nothing else to do on this ship.
Yeah. I mean, there's no one left to boss him around. He killed the guy that was bossing him around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Silver kind of bosses him around, but
Yeah, but I mean, for the
not
voyage, it was probably
publicly.
Arrow. Yeah, and good voice acting on Captain Amelia's part. I didn't cry, but it did feel something
Oh, it's
when
Emma
she was talking
Thompson,
about Arrow.
of course.
Yeah, good job.
Yes.
Um,
Uh, now we're at Boot Park.
yes.
Uh, was it Morph's intention to get Jim over here, or pure coincidence?
I'm going with pure
Um,
coincidence, unfortunately.
yeah, coincidence. Morph
Yeah,
just wanted to have
that's
fun.
what I thought.
Morph
It
wasn't
would be
aiming
one
Jim.
thing if, like, they animated more worried, hesitant expressions, but they didn't. It was all fun and games. So
I can see
pure
it.
coincidence.
I can see it as Morph leading Jim back to where Silver could be to like try to spread the fun, but
Yeah.
not intentional to like be a part of the meeting and listen in kind of thing.
Also, that barrel is huge that he hides in. I've never seen a barrel that big.
Well, that's
From the inside, it
true.
looks
Cyberman.
like a fucking TARDIS.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's also fine because earlier when Jim's doing the interrogation scene, that huge barrel's there. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's been shown
Yeah,
before.
it's set up, but it's much bigger on the inside.
Oh yeah, it's a big barrel. Also, I am mistaken. I thought it was before the montage, potential for greatness. It's actually after, right when you said Jim and
It's in the comforting
so
scene, right?
yeah, the comfort scene. That might be my favorite character scene. Actually, probably is. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I would agree
it's a
with that.
good line delivery.
Mostly because of the ogre. I think is
Yeah, and Jim's
very
extremely
very
emotional because he feels all this blame on him, and he's
yeah
outcast from the crew, and
yeah I can agree. Very very good scene.
it's also smart that Silver plays it as a comforting to bond with Jim to make him gain a little more trust than
Hmm.
to keep him outcast because he could then be dangerous and recluse like he
Yeah.
has been shown, and he could do anything random that could be either good or bad. So it's nice to
Hmm.
see Silver kind of also slightly manipulate and keep him under his thumb.
Yeah. Very um
I
um
guess a question, is Silver smart? Do you think Silver's a smart character?
Yeah, he kind of has to be
he's an
from what we've
intelligent
seen.
character. He's smart enough within the bounds of the world. Like he doesn't do anything overtly stupid. Whatever.
um, yeah, yeah, I don't think he did anything stupid. Well, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, overhearing the whole conversation where, yeah, you're soft for the boy. It's all a ploy. I don't care about the boy. Ha, ha,
Yeah.
ha.
Yeah.
And
Um,
we obviously know because of all the extra lingering glances we get from him. We know he's lying to his crew at this
yeah,
point, but it's a nice show of perspective in a way that the Last Jedi was not. I get to pick on Ryan. I'm picking on everybody today in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Go after Lucas. Get him.
Uh, maybe if I find
Metachlorians.
if I find something to pick on the prequel, we will. Uh, but yeah, in a way that like perspective is very important. Like Jim doesn't know how like that the captain's not lying through his teeth. Whereas in the Last Jedi, it's the perspective is played almost as almost for the sake of a joke because Ryan Johnson doesn't know how to write comedy or stories. But it's uh, this was a good use of perspective in that Jim seeks further into himself because now he realizes the only person that's been covering him is potentially lying to him, and he takes it as a lie because he is that self-deprecating, and he doesn't really have any reason to not believe it as a lie right now. And
Do
this
you guys
obviously leads.
smell that through your screen real quick? You guys smell that?
Smell
No?
what?
It's
Or-
Ryan Johnson being thoroughly roasted throughout this
Ah,
video.
ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I mean, I'm roasting the new Star Wars trilogy, is what I'm doing. Because
Look,
I've been roasting JJ. I haven't had the chance to roast
look. This is if
Ryan
you,
yet.
thank you for being, listening to Treasure Planet. I know you really like Treasure Planet. That's probably why you clicked on this, or just enjoy our, rants and whatnot. But later on in the future, we might get to a point where we cover certain directors, maybe just all about a director.
Oh
And
no.
if Ryan Johnson's a pick for writer, boy, that's gonna be the hottest episode we release.
It's gonna be a scathing,
It's
is
gonna
what
be
Gonna be a
that's.
bloodbath.
sizzling. You get burritos, you get nachos. Those are fine. Those are warm. Don't touch plates a little warm, okay? They tell you. When Ryan Johnson comes up, man, Ryder's got a fajita in front of him. Can't
Yeah,
see out of those glasses.
I think he's a great visual director. Horrible, horrible writer. He has not written a good. He's not written a good script for me yet. I am waiting for him to write a good script still. The closest he's gotten is Knives Out, and it's
Glass
riddled with
Onion.
fucking problems.
Who knows?
What a
Yeah.
weird movie. No, I didn't hear anything about Glass Onion. But we're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about Glass Onion, which is like an orb that's like a map, we'll go back to Treasure Planet. Um,
Whew.
See, no, so you did the wrong transition. All right, like an ogre, like an onion that has layers, like
like
silver. There you
Silver.
go.
Yeah,
That's
you
better.
know?
Sorry, flying off the
Land
seat of my pants.
ho!
Yeah, they find land. And Jim's got a
Yes.
little understanding now that Silver's a bit dark, a little
Yes.
more cruel.
Uh, I kind of like the escape to the ship. Uh, Amelia is a good shot. Knows her ship really well, very clearly, which is nice. It's not like out of the blue. Um, so I was able to buy their escape pretty well. Though the crash landing should have killed them.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
especially when
mean,
it flipped on top of them.
it's just a
Yeah,
little boat.
it sucks that Captain Amelia is injured, but they should all be dead. So I'm happy one of them is injured. It still sucks.
Um, felt bad for Silver when he got stabbed in the leg.
I did not. I thought there was a perfect. I mean, like I felt bad for him in the sense of like, yeah, you're torn as a character, but I did not feel bad because it makes sense for Jim to want to do that.
I really like the
Yeah.
animation of that part where Jim runs up with a knife, dodges, stabs, and runs away. That looked really fluid.
Yes, it was some good, excellent animation.
Oh,
Um,
when they retrieve the map from the cabinet and Morph keeps trying to take it, I'm like, oh, Morph's going to turn into the map. I wonder if he can project stuff because now he's seen the object.
see, that's a
But
problem I wrote down
no,
too. Fucking,
but no, he just turns into the object later.
Which I think is fine.
um,
which is
yeah,
fine.
which is all right.
It's still I don't know the limits of his powers, so I'll just
Also,
accept it.
another fact. I'm just going to sprinkle in facts because I read a lot. Um,
Hmm.
during that whole part of Silver and Jim coaxing Mort to come to them, um, that was all ad-libbed.
Really,
Come here, Morph. Come on.
Yeah,
I like to imagine they were in the same recording booth at the same time. So like the actors were staring each other down, and there was a dog or
fighting.
something between them just
Oh,
for
I'm like
fun.
fighting after like a floating tennis ball.
um, but yeah, I do like the clear hesitancy that the captain doesn't take the shot for multiple reasons. Like doesn't want to destroy the map, but it's it's a nice veil to hide his feelings under to the crew. But I do like we as an audience see his hesitancy and wanting to shoot them and stuff like
Oh,
that.
Oh, with the cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. And not just the cannon, but in the room with them too. Like he had the opportunity to shoot the ropes or the sails or whatever to prevent them
Mhm.
from escaping.
I have a question that just kind of came to mind. Do you guys think it's not necessarily breaking a character, but what do you feel about the difference in John Silver's eye, his cyborg eye, changing colors depending on his mood, from yellow to red?
Yeah, I
I,
saw
I
that.
it's the same programming that would give Star Wars droids in Obi-Wan. They get the evil eye when they're evil. I don't
Yeah,
know.
just tropey.
It's
That's
it's
it.
a tropey thing. I'm more accepting of it in animation than I am in live action. I've noticed, but it's, it's a thing that exists, I guess.
Okay.
Man, this movie would be so different with the 50-50 choice of the morph ball or the real ball. If you grabbed the right one, the movie would be so different.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
kind of 50-50 choice.
The fact that he didn't grab them both is a bit problematic. Wouldn't
Well,
you
yeah,
say?
the fact that I didn't feel that there were two in there is weird
I mean,
because
did
that
he
was a
actually
very small
look?
bundle of ropes.
Yeah, did he actually
Yeah,
look, or did he just reach a hand in and grab?
He reached and grabbed. That
he
Okay.
reached
he
to
didn't look
grab,
at
but
it.
he would have hit. He would have felt the other one,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
would have pulled out two because that's what most people would do when they're not sure.
Also, with Morph going in and him grabbing Morph, would Silver not know where Morph? Like, would he not look for Morph?
Yeah, that's also a problem.
Morph just
Uh,
vanishes.
Yep,
yeah, that's
definitely
also a
something.
problem.
All we get from that is Morph. I was wondering where you went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even though he
and
saw
that is
where he last went.
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I'm agree there. I had something else. Darn it! It's gone.
Yeah.
Poof. Finished. Oh, it's back. When the Doc, I already forgot
Dilbert.
Delbert, um, shoots and knocks all those people to their deaths. um, And Amelia's like, "Did you mean to shoot that?"
And he's
Uh,
like, "Yeah, is it weird that I
yeah,
did?"
did you aim for that?
As a matter of
Even though
fact,
he
I
totally
did.
wasn't aiming for that.
No,
No
he
way.
was just trying to impress her.
Yeah, because it's
And it
still a
works.
better love story than Twilight.
Yeah, that's yeah, I agree. The question is it a better love story than Pixar's first 8 minutes for Up?
Absolutely not.
Nothing will ever be.
I can think of dozens of things that are better than that,
No.
but I'm asking if this is.
No, not this. It was very
All right.
I
sidelined
didn't cry to
character.
this.
They weren't really built up
Yeah.
romantically.
Anyway, yeah, good shit.
They crash on the planet and they're injured, and Jim.
Amelia immediately goes for strategy,
Only
which I
one isn't.
Yeah,
Yes, one is injured. Of course, it had to be the competent one.
Yeah, unfortunately. And like this is the time. This would have been the time to include her in the movie, and no, and she's just still relegated to being half a character.
Of course, it had to be the cat that landed on their back and not their feet.
Well, who knows? She might have landed on her feet. Just the boat crushed her or the ground. I don't know. They were going pretty fast. It should be dead. Moving on.
Uh, let's see. Yes, and we find Ben, character that could have easily not been in this movie.
Yeah, he's here for
yeah.
laughs, and I have no idea.
I
He wasn't
like
needed.
I like how short Ben is and how late into the movie he's introduced. I do like that. If he was at the beginning of the movie, man, I would have found him so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like he would be far more annoying the longer he was here. So I'm happy he's introduced really late for that reason. But he still is a really unnecessary character.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think he contributed literally anything.
He
His
can.
house, they could have found a cave.
I think this is
The
me. Ben did more than Taika Waititi in Lightyear.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. That's not a high bar, but
It's
yes.
not
I
a
know
high
that's
bar,
that's saying
but
nothing.
Not a high
um,
bar, but yes, you are correct. I agree. He does
Ben
serve
helping
some
out.
purpose, and
Oh,
he does facilitate like you know the reason for everyone to start escaping.
he's
Though to be
such an
fair, I'm
easy
pretty sure
write
it would have been very
off.
obvious when something
It's
booby trap was activated.
that's true.
yeah, the house could have been a cave. Him helping them onto the ship, and like turning off the cannons or whatever. That could have been Morph. Morph didn't have to be with Jim. He could have had Morph do it. Um,
Do you think?
there's just things they could have done to not have
Okay.
him
Do you think they
involved.
would have then just found the tunnel system?
Yeah, could have. And it could have been like Incredibles, where Dash found the port exhaust port or whatever of the
Oh, the
ship
cave.
in the cave. Um, so yeah, especially if the planet's hollow or something, which is also something I wrote down. Did Captain Flint build this planet?
Yeah, that
Um,
would take more than a lifetime. So I'm gonna guess not.
um,
I
yeah,
think.
this whole planet doesn't
Yeah.
really
I
make much
don't know if
sense to
he.
me.
I don't think he built the planet, but I do think he, like Star Wars, converted the planet into his design of what he wanted and cyborged it.
um, Actually, here's an interesting question. The planet was riddled with like robotic ruins and everything, right?
Topside.
Yes,
Well,
because I
Ben's
remember
building
seeing
had
like
ruins. Yeah,
yeah, like I remember seeing like a bunch of like not necessarily the gearheads like Ben, but there were a bunch of other what is it called? I thought I saw like other
Automatons.
machines that were yeah there were other machines like in the background landscape that were grown over like and stuff like that covered in moss like they were obviously not functioning anymore but it was once a machine world almost.
Oh, I didn't notice that. It didn't look like Wonder City to me.
I
But
mean I'm used to looking for that kind of thing because of games I play so I it
so
was
Ben
it
might be a native to this planet, and so Flint took over.
Not necessarily. I mean, like the idea that there's a machine world where machines were like designed to terraform it, maybe, or build it, maybe. In a kind of way the Forerunner drones maintain the Halo rings. Um, it would have worked in a similar capacity to that, which means that Flint might not have necessarily had to do all the work. It would have just meant that like
He
he
found
commandeered.
this place.
Yeah, he found it and commandeered it, more or less. That's kind of the visual history that I got from this planet. But I have nothing more to go on than just very scant background things that I thought I saw.
I'm trying. Well, that wouldn't explain the portal being there though,
No,
which
no,
was built into
I'm
this.
assuming I'm assuming Captain Flint is the one that did the portal bit, but I'm saying that the process of making the machine world itself, the Hollow World.
It was already created for the robot kind, and Flint just took over the planet, made them help him create the portal mechanic, help him
Yeah,
make the map. It would definitely explain why the inner part of the planet's already all robotic. That would certainly be consistent.
yeah. I got the hint that it was a machine world because of that. But again, you know, nothing really much to go on
Uh,
but scant
yeah, it's
ruins.
not
So
concrete. Yeah.
yeah, it's not concrete. All I have is ruins. I'll happily admit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I couldn't quite make out which pile of moss was Lupe. So unfortunately. But Ben's introduced. They go into the cave structure. Um, and is that when Silver comes down to wave the white flag?
The house.
Yeah, the
Yes.
house.
Well, first, Ben shouts, "Hey, we're over here, guys!" And then they get
Oh
shot at,
yeah.
and then Ben tells them to not shoot, or Silver tells them to not shoot. So then we have our parlay.
Darn, darn, Ben. Yeah, two things. Don't touch and shut up.
Yeah. You see, this is not my most egregious scene with
Well,
Ben. My
Crimson,
egregious
he
scene with
can't
Ben is coming
remember.
still.
I know.
Yeah, my egregious scene with Ben is coming up. It's not this
No, I liked Amelia and
Dilbert.
Delbert's interaction um, with the very forceful doctor. Go on, say something else. I'm like,
one.
oh, been spicy in here.
Yep. It did get a smirk on my face, so I approve.
Do you think
And then
the
yeah, Silver's
being both alien, but do you think the dog cat thing is a good little joke?
Oh, it's definitely a joke.
full intention because we only saw Delbert's the only dog guy we've seen, right?
I guess the only one with like a snout, kind
Yeah,
of dog nosed.
Mhm.
so I'd imagine it's intentional.
Anyway, the parlay, and this is where Jim knows that they don't have the map,
Mhm. Which is
and
good for them.
yeah, and Silver doesn't. Is that where he finds Morph? Morph joins him with the parlay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, when they
Yeah.
end up talking.
So yeah, they have a talk here, and it's kind of nice to see Silver actually be honest. He gets a chance to be honest because he's away from his crew.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Jim doesn't buy it, which I also think is in character. It was very, very nice. Very good scene.
Everything I said about you wasn't true. And if you give me the key, we can split the gold. I don't believe you.
Doesn't he say like split it 50-50?
Yeah.
Like that's what a big lie. Absolutely no. Even like to Jim, that is not
The crew
convincing.
wouldn't.
If he's
Crew
like,
wouldn't like that.
yeah, he's like, I'll let you in with a portion, maybe even like 10% or something. Like that would be more believable.
I don't
50-50 makes
remember
me think. I was like,
50-50,
hey,
but I just
Jim,
couldn't
let's
understand.
kill everyone. Just
Yeah,
just leave it
I
all.
assume he was gonna ditch his crew if he accepted, in some form or fashion.
Which is interesting
But
that he's
again,
built a stronger connection with Jim in this one voyage than any member of his crew.
have you met Scroop? I don't think I
I
would
mean,
want to
I
build
mean,
a
the
strong
Scroop is
faction.
just one of them. I mean, they're all ruffians, but
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't remember, but one of like the ruffians, like the small moving head or whatever, that's like
the
feminine,
yeah,
reminds me of the Emperor's New Groove villain Ness.
Yzma.
Oh, yeah,
Yzma. Yeah, I saw
I can see
Yzma in
that.
her. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah,
I just
kinda.
pictured, yeah, I just pictured Yzma when I came to her.
I can see that. And then
Let's
parlay doesn't
see,
go, and then
Ben.
Jim plans to get back to the ship, and Ben helps him by showing the tunnel system so they can get to the camp.
Mhm.
Yeah, Ben's like, oh, this other way, just so I can relax.
Yeah,
Other way,
very lucky. And
Ben.
also,
Let's go.
Jim. This is my egregious moment with Jim is the fact that he just yells immediately. Like I'm pretty sure, fucking, uh, sorry, Jim would shut him the fuck up. Like on the way.
Uh, when they got Silver's attention or the exit.
No, no, no. When they come out of the exit.
Okay,
Oh, like
yeah,
peeking.
when they were sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to let Ben come with me, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's here to
seems like quite a
he's
liability.
here to facilitate one of the longest unnecessary protracted fights in a ship I've seen.
Yeah, they managed to get on the ship.
Amazing they stole the skiff. I'm like I have no idea how you're gonna steal the skiff quietly, and then it just next scene they're in space. I'm like, oh, okay.
Guess they did it
Yeah,
quietly.
that's how.
And
Cool.
it's also fine to me that how low intelligent the crew is, that no one was like on guard. They were doing shifts. Everyone's just sleeping.
Well, see that's the thing. I assume they were sleeping in because their plan was to sneak in at night and capture them, and then they just wait for Jim when they realize he's not there. But yeah, I mean,
And they obviously
see,
move in on them while they're away.
yeah,
Whether
I
or not that's when they woke up or them leaving woke them up, kind of results the same.
yeah,
yeah, I think it's a good move um, that they left some crew member on the ship. It's
yep,
Mm.
definitely coincidental and whatnot that it's Scroop. Um, but someone was left on the ship, which is my thought to when they burned down the inn. Maybe someone was on their ship, and
yeah.
not all of
It's
them
also
were.
coincidental that Jim has the only weapon.
That's true. Something about this whole scene down below and everything, it felt very much like Alien to me.
uh, a
Like with
little
the
bit of that.
pipes and the red lighting, and he's like above him.
Yeah, my issue was just the convenience of the switching wires. That's what really bugged me about the scene.
It
Oh
was very
yeah,
helpful.
Oh yeah, very well timed and also very ill timed because he had him at gunpoint, and then I'm like, oh, you see the lights are gonna turn back on, he's not gonna be there, and you're just gonna be standing there like an idiot because you also didn't move because that's classic trope, and they did exactly that, and I just went, yep,
Yeah, I liked how scared Scroop was at the sight of the gun, though.
yeah,
Oh shoot, I'm a goner.
yeah, he was dead. Well, at least he's gonna lose a couple limbs.
well, it shows
Um,
that he believes that Jim would actually fire.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, uh, we also had Ben sing "Pirate's Life" for me. Uh,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
little nod.
yeah, I like that.
"Pirate's Life" for me.
And then it's poetic justice, is it? That Scroop went out the same way he killed Arrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, was I don't remember. Was the ship within the planet's atmosphere, or was it in space?
It was in space.
It was in
Okay.
space. I don't know if it was within the atmosphere. It might have just been set to orbit or whatever. I don't know how ships work. So,
Because I was thinking if it was in atmosphere, why would he be floating upwards? But they're in space, so I guess that's okay.
all right, gang, I got to dip.
Oh, that's
Oh,
where writers gotta call it. Writer, before you leave, would you like to leave us your ratings?
sure. As we've discussed, there is a lot of. I'll give my subjective one. This is an 8. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. It's very great. Um, like I said, I have a soft spot for steampunk. Uh, It's a lot of fun. It's a little nice adventure. Definitely a turn your brain off kind of adventure. Don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
Like I said, Captain Amelia is great. Silver's great. I love the nautical look of the ships. There's a lot of superficial things I really love about this film. Um, and then I'll move over to my objective. It's not good, unfortunately. I think the characters uh, are okay. They're more functional in this than they are in Lightyear, or comparatively to some other films that we've seen. Um, they're It's very very snappy dialogue, which is very good for quickly covering history. At least exchanges between like Amelia and Arrow, you get the sense of their history and their trust in their quick banter dialogue, which is very very good because that dialogue is very multi-layered. There's a lot of that in this film where the dialogue is being multifaceted, um, and the character work is generally what upholds this film uh, to what I think it is. Um, the world building, garbage, dumpster fire. Some of the It's not good, as I have repeated into indefinality while commenting on this film. The plot is also heavily contrived. Uh, as we kind of talked about, it's facilitated by a MacGuffin, which is fine in isolation, but it's problematic when other things about the plot aren't working. How the crew is on Amelia's ship to begin with when she would have her own crew, or the functionality of uh, just how the map works. And then we have uh, the black hole bit. The plot is a mess as well. So without functioning plot, without functioning world building, this movie with its decent characters being the only thing that's upholding it is probably a 4 out of 10. I think for me objectively. Um, as I said though, really like the movie subjectively. So, but yeah, it was an interesting movie to watch, and I actually probably will watch it again because it was fun. Um,
Okie
Well, I
doke.
would imagine with an 8,
Yeah,
you
you
probably
might
would.
pick up some other things that you missed too.
yeah, well, we shall see. All right, guys. Good luck with the rest of the pod, and I'll catch you all later, audience. See you next time.
Goodbye, Ryder.
Tulu Rider.
Goodbye.
And with that, Crimson, just you and I to wrap it up.
Yeah. Still got a decent chunk to go.
Oh yeah, we do. Where we leave off? We left off
Scroop's death.
Scoop dying. Okay.
Uh, yeah, I agree with Ryder with the cables being very, very convenient.
Oh, which one was lights?
And
Which one was gravity?
yeah, they all happen to be relevant at the time. But it's all right, I guess. It's a kids movie, right?
Yeah, I think it's okay because when Ben's looking at the wires, he has no idea. It's definitely helpful when plot and coincidental that what he's actually doing is helping Jim and against Scroop. But to Ben, in the moment of what he's doing, it's completely random. He doesn't know.
A good thing he didn't turn off life support or fire suppression systems, or
Oh
so
yeah,
there's a lot he
capsize
could
the boat.
have, yeah, jettisoned the air for like a vacuum or
That would
something.
have been also a
Um,
death if he like capsized the boat and then Scroop got cut, so he just plummets to the planet.
yeah,
Squish.
squish squash. Morph. During this whole part, I'm like, Morph, you can do a lot here, and then eventually he did with
Yeah.
the pie to the face.
Like
Um,
that's something we haven't touched on. That Morph can make actual like elements that are still him. Like early on when he was with Jim
uh,
with the boot, he turned into like a blowfish thing and spat water. But is that water still just Morph and the water just comes back to him?
oh yeah, he cries and turns into a puddle at one point in this movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
all
yeah,
the
he
all the
must be a
stuff
liquid.
from the pie is just still pieces of Morph, right?
Yeah, because you see he wipes it off and grabs it, and it all congeals back into Morph.
Okay.
So it's all Morph. And even when he's floating around, there's usually little dots floating around him.
Yeah.
It's not just one solid blob. He's bits. Um,
Okay.
but
That
yeah,
makes
he's pretty
Morph.
strong.
Yeah, that makes him
If
powerful.
if Morph was cold blooded, he could just turn into a knife and kill everybody all the time.
Yeah.
uh, Morph is OP,
Yeah, but he's also like a. I can't tell his age, but he's definitely like he's a pet.
childish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a but fun addition nonetheless.
So then from that they get the actual map back, head back, and then that's where Silver and his crew took over um, and um, captured. There we go. Captured the captain and Dilbert. And to me, wow, Jim um, might be a little blind. I know it's dark, but man, he could not tell Silver's silhouette or anything at that rock.
Yeah, and it was weird how dark it was because it wasn't dark
No.
every other scene we've seen this location. And I don't
Silver
remember. I wish it was
emerged.
up if it was morning outside or not. I don't
Um,
remember, or if it was still night.
I think it's still night, almost morning.
Okay, I guess that would help with the dark a little bit then.
Yeah, because when it goes over to Captain and Dilbert, it's like darker lighting on them, so it's still nighttime out because they got the house has the big gaping circle. So
All right.
I would say it's still
Uh,
night. A
yeah.
detail I noticed that I don't know if it's reference or if it's an actual thing, but the mask they pull when they do the mutiny to change the flags, and then the one that Scroop falls off with, is the image on that of Captain Flint and like the rings of the Treasure Planet.
Oh, um, I didn't really pay attention to the design.
I know it's
It
just the
did have this.
classic
It
like
had the slit
cross the skull and
eyes.
crossbones,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that could have been fun. That is something that crossed my mind, and they didn't answer. Was what is Silver's relationship to this
Flint.
treasure? Well,
Yeah,
Flynn or the treasure in general, because he's like, "This is mine. I'm owed this," and they never answer it if he was part of Flint's crew or he was an opposing crew that Flint took over and stole from. We don't really know anything of Flint's motivation
no,
outside of he's a treasure hunter. We get the connection that he took damage and it has cyborg parts now. That could be linked to the treasure hunting. We don't really know.
I
I
think it would
feel
have been
like there's
cool.
something there,
It would have been cool to
but
see a sequel, the canceled
yeah,
sequel of this
sequel or
movie.
prequel or something.
Yeah.
There was a oh yeah, yeah, you said that.
It would have been
Yeah,
cool if before he was a
if it answered some
cyborg,
stuff.
he was just a member of Flint's crew. But then again, when
Yeah, and
Ben got
that I
his
feel
memories
like it would have
back,
shown in the beginning.
yeah, Ben didn't recognize Silver.
Yeah,
But then again, that could have been two different time periods of when, however, like before Ben was introduced to the crew and Flint was already like disbanded or left to dead with a missing arm or something. Who knows? Interesting story that I could tell, but
yeah, just we'll never know because
nope.
they didn't answer it here. And the pretty this is the point where they follow the map now, right?
Yeah,
And
the blinking light.
I was wondering why that trail was never present when you first opened it, because it was just a map that showed there was no trail
Yeah,
guidance trail, um, which I think should have been there. It'd be weird if it activates when you're on the planet itself
that's all I can think
instead of
of.
guiding
Is that it's
you through
yeah that it's
space.
planet bound. That's the only thought I have on it because he never opened the map on planet until that point.
So if that's the case, I find that weird that it does that. But that's kind of the conclusion we have to make.
Yeah, It's also kind of nice that he passes the map to Silver, and Silver tries to open the map and can't, and he kind of just
Yeah.
gives up. But he doesn't. He's seen Jim use it, right? No, it was under lock and key the whole
No.
time in the ship. He's never seen him use
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. He hasn't seen it.
Okay, because I was thinking if he saw Jim use it, he tried to open it the same way Jim did. But because he doesn't, he just tries to brute force the thing.
Yeah. The only time he saw it was when Morph was carrying it, but it wasn't activated or anything.
Okay.
But yeah, brute force. I'm fine with him giving up fairly quick. It was pretty quick, but
Well, he tries like
he,
three different ways, right? He does
yeah,
I don't know what to call his mechanical pieces of his arm, but there's like the pressure
yeah,
one, and then there's the egg fingers, and then I
with the
think
like
it's just
suction
normal
cup
hand. Yeah.
ends. Yeah.
But then he uses Dilbert and the captain as leverage.
Did you tilt your head?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you put it. I'm glad.
Oh, I did.
Uh,
I
oh,
didn't
good.
do a full tilt, but I did move my head.
Okay.
And in case anyone knows what that is, it's from a TV show called Leverage, and I just moved my head again. Um, but in the intro, they say that, and it does a head tilt, which to Crimson and I is pretty iconic. And then Leverage Redemption came out, and we're like, they better do it, and they poorly
And
did.
Nate's not even there.
No.
Spoiler. Um, yeah, and they get to where the portal section is, and all I wrote in my notes is, "Wow, what a build!" Once we see that it activates the portal
Oh, when it
and
activates,
stuff.
yeah, because when they get
Yeah,
there, there's nothing.
because that's a huge, huge structure that had to be made for that portal. And I found it weird that you have to place it on the floor. That there's not some like console or anything, some pillar to put it in. You have to go on the ground
Well,
to
I think
activate it.
that's okay because it hides it more,
I
so I'm
mean, I
okay
guess,
with that.
but at the time, it wouldn't have been overgrown with like moss and grass and stuff. It would have
True.
been visible on the floor.
Which kind of might bring up writer's thing. If all this moss and overgrown is gone, would it just be a metal robot world?
Yeah, I don't
Because then
know.
it would just blend in.
Yeah, it's a little odd. Well, without any definitive answer on the origin of this planet, can't really say for sure.
The portal looks really cool though, and I like how the outline kind of it's some kind of language, kind of Matrix like to me. But I don't know if that's like
Hmm.
coordinates or something, because it's something written. It's not just like
Um,
glitchy effect, right? Or do you think it was
I
just a
didn't
portal
pay too
mechanic?
much attention to it, so I don't know. I
To me,
can't
I
give you
thought it
an
was
answer.
writing because it's all different. It's not like the same lines, or but I could be
Sure,
just
it could be written. If it's a metal planet, it could be like techno babble. I don't know. Not necessarily binary, but it could be something else.
oh, okay, that could be it. That could work. But yeah, Jim
Um,
then activates the portal, and they well, I guess that kind of works because you said if there's a pedestal, they'd put it in the ground, and then the orb itself makes the light pedestal to choose. They don't have to like click it on the ground.
not for like the hologram map
Yeah,
choice
to
thing.
select.
Yeah. I don't know. This is just a weird choice because usually that's like putting a lever on the floor or a button on the floor. It's kind of weird. It would usually have
Well, like a
something,
well, like a pressure
some
plate.
input. Well, yeah, but you don't have to bend over. I'm just saying it logically doesn't make sense, or architecturally, I guess, doesn't make much sense. But that's fine. It's
Yeah,
very
all I can think about it
small
is
thing.
that Flint used it in this way that it's more hidden, and it's just kind of that the moss grew over it that it still looks different because if all the moss was gone, as I said, when Jim rubs his hand over it, it's not just it is an indent, but it doesn't stand out in color or anything because it matches the rest of the floor.
Mhm.
So, But then,
Let's see. He
I
figures out that the planet itself is hollow and has the treasure.
well, does he figure out that it's hollow, or he just knows the treasure's somewhere on the planet? So he clicks the
Well,
planet.
he said the treasure's within the planet. So because of what Ben said,
Okay.
um, so not necessarily that the whole planet's hollow, but at least that it's underground on the planet,
Yeah.
which is why they start digging the goons.
Yeah, and start hitting
So
metal again.
that he he knows it's in the planet somewhere. Um,
I know I keep
how
saying
he
it.
jumped to that conclusion that a portal would be linked is a little iffy, but
I
it's
guess so.
okay.
I know I keep bringing it up, but I'm actually leaning towards writers' theory on this now that this is a robotic planet and it wasn't made by Flint, but it was like commandeered by him. Just
Or to make
how,
it better, we just don't really
yeah.
have a definitive to say that's actually what it is.
Well, something I
So
doubt is that Flint built Ben. That I don't think is true. He doesn't
I
seem that
don't.
type. I mean, we don't know
We
very
don't have
much
proof.
about him, but
Yeah, I don't know. I agree certain things would be better off, but since we don't actually have answers, I'm not willing to assume
yeah.
because we don't have answers.
So
Because we do
then
see robots in this world. Ben's not the only
that's
robot.
true.
We see the police are robots as well.
That
Uh,
is true.
so
Um,
uh, yeah,
so the portal opens up. Then they're down below with the treasure, which wow looks cool. Like the pan out part doesn't look bad to me. That bad because I think
yeah.
the
The
treasure is just kind of one moldy color, but the lightning and the pikes all around it and spires kind of draw my attention there.
mhm,
So I think that's cool. Also, do you
yeah,
think this is the
this
center of
trigger.
the planet, or do you think this is just somewhere in the planet? Like, is this the core?
That's the weird thing because if it's a metal planet, it could be the core. If it's just this area is metal where the portal mechanism is,
Oh,
then it's probably under the portal area,
I don't think that's
but
true.
we don't know. We don't see enough.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
don't
that's
know.
true because Ben stated that the tunnel system runs throughout the
Is
planet.
everywhere. Okay, that's true. Um, then yeah, it could literally be anywhere.
Okay.
um,
And the fact that
the
the
area is cool.
spikes or whatever with the lightning could create its own gravity of the sphere that it is. So,
And one of the things that I wrote when I first saw this is like that's 1,000 planets of treasure. That's pretty small because in terms of Earth, if we accumulated all the gold we currently have, not that he'd be able to steal every speck of gold off a planet,
true.
but
It's a thousand
um,
planets of gold, which I think is just from a thousand planets. It's not like all the currency from said a area.
yeah, um, it just seemed small. And then once it starts like falling apart and it's just in the exterior is the gold, it made it even less believable to me because I thought the whole ball was treasure, but then it
Oh,
opens
okay.
up and it obviously isn't all treasure. It's just there's a ball and then the gold's on the outside of the ball.
Oh, okay. I found it
Uh,
believable. I thought it was fine. The thing I didn't find believable is that all a thousand planets had the same looking gold. I think there
yeah,
should have been a
yeah,
different
that's
color
fair.
or currency or something because when Silver picks up the the treasure in his hands or whatever, it's gold coins and jewels. And I think from a thousand different planets, it should have a vast amount of different like currencies and whatever. I guess that's just helpful for kids to know, like, oh, gold, that's the value, kind of thing, for visual rather than like a rainbow of different stuff.
Well, trying to think. So if it was just gold, then it should all be relatively the similar color. There's more darker gold and lighter gold, but it still looks like gold. Gold doesn't
Well, do you see?
oxidize,
Well,
so it
yeah,
wouldn't
but on
rust or anything.
do you think if they went to a planet to steal the valuables, they would only take
Could
gold?
be like platinum or something. It could be a different valuable metal on a
Yeah.
different planet.
Well, what if they went somewhere and they
Um,
got unobtainium?
that they could. Thing is, we don't know this universe. We don't know if all the planets are like united and share a currency.
That's true.
So we don't know anything in that regards.
And I guess if you say you do say it's small, so it could be the or small look to you. It could be because of that. Like if they went to 3 planets that were all alliance or whatever and use the same currency, that could just be stacked on top of all the other stuff that would be shown as a difference.
Mhm.
I guess that would help.
Like if they stole 1,000 Fort Knoxes from different planets, um, I feel like it would be more than that.
Yeah.
But
They also don't have
uh,
any. At least I didn't see. They don't have any like crowns or staffs or paintings or anything. It's just treasure chests, gold. I think a couple chalices.
chalices,
Yeah,
yeah,
intros. That's it. Very,
yeah,
very
just
pirate.
easy for the
Yeah.
animators. Uh,
And then
yeah,
while everyone's doing the gold, Jim spots Flint's ship, which makes sense to me that something identifiable to him at a young age would be easy to point out. So then he goes to Flint's ship, finds the remains of Captain Flint. So I don't necessarily know how he died, but this is where he died, where his skeleton is.
uh, there is another science problem here. I'll point out to if this is the core, m- probably even if it isn't, because it obviously has its own gravity to suck in the gold. Um, it would be a very strong gravity to the point where they are on their knees or bellies. They can't walk. They can't walk on this because of the gravity
Yeah,
there.
I guess it's not that strong. I mean, Jim's like flailing around while he's holding the wall. It's not pulling
Yeah,
him, like breaking his fingers off. So it's not
yeah.
that strong.
But I'm saying it kind of has to be to see for what we see with the gold. It has to be that
Yeah,
strong,
otherwise there'd be a
especially
couple pieces
if the
floating
whole
about.
planet has if the whole planet has gravity, which we see it does. The core would have to be stronger than the surface because
Yeah,
it's closer to the source.
unless there's
So
other sources on the planet with gravity.
true, but we don't
No,
see
that we
that.
don't know.
Like we said, we
But
don't
what
even
we
know if
do
this is the
know,
core.
yeah, what we do know when this core starts going, it blows the whole planet's going.
Yeah, yeah. So it probably is the core.
And then
Because
Jim
if it was a plant that had
finds
several little gravity pockets, this was one of many. I feel like if one failed, the whole planet wouldn't go.
could be.
But I don't know.
And then Jim finds Ben's memory, where Ben then alerts everything. Do you think it's weird that giving his memory also? It's another thing, as I brought up with Silver changing his eye of like feelings. Do you think it's weird that it changes Ben's eye color, giving his memories back from green to blue?
Yeah, that is weird. Um,
I don't know why
I
it
don't
would
know
do
why I would
that.
do that. No arguments here. My problem was Captain Flynn's purpose for Flint, uh, purpose of removing his memory is so he can't blurt out booby trap. Why not just disable Ben? Why have him loose in the first place?
That's a part of the story we don't know.
This
He
is my
ripped his
problem with
memory, but he didn't kill him.
Ben even existing is he still has no reason. This is his reason of existing, and it's just to yell booby trap. It's
It shows that Ben was a
it
part of
didn't do anything.
Flint's crew. It
Connected
could,
to Flint in some way,
yeah,
yeah.
it could be a ruling. I mean, we don't, as we said, we don't know Silver's connection to Flint. But if Silver was a part of Flint's crew and left him but didn't kill him, it could be a thing that Flint won't kill his own crew. That could be a ruling, but he would
I mean,
mutilate them. So, like, he got rid of Silver's arm, he's still alive. Got rid of Ben's memory, but still alive. Like, he won't kill them, but he'll kind of torture them or maim them, which
a
makes
lot
him
of
more of,
speculation.
yeah, it makes him definitely a more feared pirate, which is kind of what they said at the very beginning with the story, that he was one of the most feared pirates out there. So I guess that kind of helps in that regard.
I mean, kind of, but it kind of brings up the point I brought up earlier, where if there were any surviving crew, they would just rob him
Especially,
after
yeah,
he's dead.
the point I just made that if he doesn't kill his crew, so they're technically
Yeah.
all alive unless they turned on each other. Um,
Yes.
or the other fact that the rest of Flint's crew is with John Silver, and that's why they raised Flint's flag.
Well, they
Because
wouldn't need the map because they didn't know it was a key. They thought it was a map, right?
well, we don't know how. Yeah,
Um,
we don't know how secretive Flint was with it, and what knowledge they do or do not know about Flint. They just know of the treasure that Flint had.
yeah, they just referred to it as a map, not a key.
Yeah.
And
Um.
so
Is it
I'm inclined to not think they were part of Flint's crew
okay? I'm trying to think.
because
At
it
the
would make it
beginning
worse.
of the movie, at the very beginning, when the first thing shows, like the narrator's like pirates, and the flag comes in as the pirate ship goes to the larger vessel. Is that first flag shown on Flint's ship the identical flag that they raised during the mutiny?
I think so, but that could just be like this universe's Jolly Roger, which would just be a universal pirate flag.
Okay.
Um, so
Because I don't
not
believe that
enough for
Flint's
me
the
to
first
say.
pirate. That I don't
I
believe.
agree.
But he is definitely one of the most feared. That's why he's quote unquote historically, mythically talked about.
Yeah, so not enough to say yes or no to that. Even if it is the same, it could just be this universe's Jolly Roger, which all pirates would show.
Yeah. Anyway, then the booby trap goes off,
Yeah.
which, again, more people die.
Yeah, more falling deaths. Another to add to I want to count every single Disney character that has fallen to their death compared to
Oh, you got a
non-falling
lot.
deaths.
You'll have a lot of falling deaths. I can think of
They
two
all
others.
fall to death.
Um,
Notre Dame, Guston,
Gusto.
the
You mean you
witch,
mean Gaston?
Gaston, whatever.
Yeah, Gaston,
Gaston, the
the
witch
evil
from Snow White
queen.
fall.
Yeah.
Uh,
The old guy from Up.
yeah,
Um, would you count Clayton from Tarzan?
I don't remember Tarzan, so I'll
Okay,
say
he
yes.
does fall, but
Oh,
he has a
he falls
vine
from
around his neck
vines.
and he hangs himself.
Uh, half.
Okay, I'm like the
The
fall didn't
fall,
kill him. The breaking of his neck killed him.
yeah, so he technically fell.
Okay.
So yeah,
Also,
half point.
oh shoot. I'll say that later. There's something about Up that I can talk later if people want to comment about it. But there was like a deleted scene or something that changed the how the guy died or whatever in Up.
Oh,
But
right. Yeah,
I
lots of
forget his
falling.
name. Yeah, Disney likes that. Well, I guess it's kind of
It's a safe death. You
it's a
don't see
safe. Yeah, you
anything.
don't see it. It's just they're gone. But I mean, at least for Arrow, it's dark.
Yeah. I mean, if in Beauty and the Beast we have Beast just ripping apart Guston, just shredding
You keep
him
saying
instead of him
Guston.
falling to
It's
his death.
Gaston.
Whatever, Gaston.
They have a whole
Who's
song
Guston?
about him.
Who's Guston? That's
I don't know
definitely
who
a name.
Guston is. Guston, the chef from Ratatouille. That's Gusteau.
I don't. Yeah, I don't
Anyone
know.
can cook. Anyway, and then Jim has the idea that he can't get to the portal in time, so he starts. Does he start like making rewiring the ship?
Um, Jim.
Yeah, Jim starts
Sorry, I
rewiring
zoned out.
Flint's ship.
Yes. Yeah, he was using that to get out because he wanted out, but he also wanted treasure, and there was treasure on the ship. Because they could have just gone through the portal like they ended up doing,
Yeah.
but that was their way of getting treasure out of it. At least that's how I read it.
Yeah. No, I can agree. Um, and it's also good to have a second vessel because right now there's only one way off the planet.
Mhm.
So if that's gone, then he's marooned. So definitely a good thought, I guess, for Jim, especially last minute. And he also kind of just tells Ben to piss off. He's like, I don't really
Yeah,
care.
save
Leave.
the others.
Yeah.
Um, oh, something I didn't mention with Ben's memory is that it was convenient that it was found in the at all. um,
Well, yeah,
the
it's kind
it
of
had
weird
to have
that
been in
that's
his
like
hands.
the last thing Flint did, I guess, because he didn't
He
put
could
it
have
or
had
store
it
it somewhere.
in a yeah, he could have had it in a chest. Could have chucked it off. He could have destroyed it because he didn't want it.
What
Um,
that would have been what a twist it would be if when he removed Ben's memory, Ben killed him, like accidentally.
uh, Originally, I thought he was going to plug in his memory and um,
It would
what was his
show a
name? And
flashback.
Flint. No, and Flint somehow digitized and turned into Ben.
Oh,
Because
like a handsome Jack situation in
yeah, like
Tales
Handsome
from the
Jack,
Borderland.
exactly. Because I thought it was weird that Flint was pretty prevalent in this, important, but we never saw him as a character. I'm like, okay, when he gets his memory, he could we can see Flint, but we don't get that,
Do you think that would
which
have
I
been
would have preferred that
you would have preferred that
because Ben is useless.
even this late in the movie? That would have been good. Because that would have
It would have to be some. I'm fine with it being late, but I think they'd have to rework the timeline of the core failing because it would be too much at once.
okay.
Um, but I would prefer that over how useless and unnecessary Ben is. If Ben was Flint's failsafe of living or something, I would totally take that.
Okay, and then like Ben or this version of Flint and Jim having a fight, and then Silver comes in and helps, kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah, they could go that route. There could even be monologue between Silver and Flint talking about "you took my
Yeah,
arm."
their past or whatever.
So there's a. I think they could have taken that route, and it would have worked for this.
Okay, okay, that's an idea. So while that's all going on, you got the Dilbert and Captain tied, and then Dilbert's just not tied up.
Uh,
What a
yeah, that was
plot.
stupid. That was lazy, weak.
I agree. That was real lazy. He's just like, oh, I don't know how this happened.
There's two things that happen here. So either they tied him like you normally would, and they just made it loose, or they had pre-made rope cuffs that they just universally use, which both are stupid in this scenario.
That is kind of yeah.
Because when you're tying someone up, you tighten it. That's the
I
whole
don't
point.
I don't think they would have tightened it. I'm gonna go with your latter option because I think if they did tie it to him, they would have tightened it. I think if it was cuffs, they would just put it on and believe it because they're a
Well, I mean,
dumb
that's what we
crew.
have to believe is they
Yeah,
were just pre-made cuffs, which is stupid.
and then
Um,
he gets the guy's gun, which is fine.
yeah,
But the fact that that's the only gun or weapon and everyone fears him at that point is a little much. Actually, was that the only person on watch? Was it just one guy?
yes, yeah, that was the only guy on watch.
Okay, then it's fine. I thought there was like
Yeah,
three of them or something
no,
around the
everyone
end.
else went there for the
Gold.
treasure.
Okay. All right, that's fine then. If he had the only weapon on this guy, then yeah.
Um, his yeah, it's the cuff thing's just stupid convenient.
I agree.
They could have done something else. Him calling him fat to get him over there, I guess, is okay. It's all right.
Yeah,
Fairly
it's a,
lazy, but
it's a boy.
it's acceptable. Doesn't break anything.
And then we have Jim on the ship, and he falls off. Like a beam starts hitting the ship. No, that's not even
Yeah,
the beam. It hits the
the
ship later.
gravity beam.
It
Right?
bumps him off, and then he starts falling, and then Silver sees him.
Uh, well, yeah. So Silver's holding the ship when Jim falls off,
Well,
and
Silver gets on the ship,
Morph
right?
points it out.
Yeah.
Huh?
Silver
Yeah,
boards the ship,
yeah.
tries to have a conversation with
And
the
then he
lad.
gets hit.
Yeah.
They both get knocked off, but he grabs the ship, pulls it in. Morph points out Jim's gonna die, and then Silver's got this whole dilemma. Let's see, my lifelong obligation or the kid? and he
And
chose the
again,
kid.
it um, when earlier in the movie when Silver's like, you got to give up some, sacrifice some things for I don't remember the line to like go after your dream,
To follow your dream, yeah.
to follow your dream. The same look comes on his face when Jim holds the sword up to him.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, I agree.
He's like, is he going to keep the kid away from his dream, kind of thing.
Yeah. Like you said, Silver's a pretty good character.
Also,
Uh,
for a world of steampunk and technological advances, are you fine that they still use swords and like flintlocks?
oh, you guys have automatically called this steampunk. I don't know if I would call this steampunk, but
I mean, it's kind of
there
Firefly that
there
way
is
too.
lasers.
They use these old looking guns that shoot lasers.
Yeah. Um, yeah, flintlock laser is not practical. So yeah, that's dumb. Swords, I'm fine with. If you want a melee option, swords are fine. But yeah, laser flintlocks, just there for the aesthetic. They don't really make sense. But then again, neither do barnacles in space.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the flintlocks are fine if they're like like a Star Wars gun. You know, they just like overheat kind of thing. You don't have to like pull the
Oh, if it's
hammer
just
each
cosmetic.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we see through Silver, his actually manually has to cock it.
Click. Yeah. But does he ever fire that one? Because we might
Uh,
not know that one's a laser. Because he has his whole arm cannon.
I mean, if it's not a laser, I find that worse.
Yeah.
um, but I don't think we see him use it.
Because he's almost. There's a part where he's like aiming at Jim as he's running away, and then he puts it down because he's gone soft and it didn't fire.
Yeah,
So I don't think he ever fires that flintlock weapon version.
and then he uses it to threaten Doc and Cap. But,
Yeah.
and yeah, it never gets fired.
So then Jim falls off, and he's holding on to the wall pieces that are going away for some reason. I don't fully know what those pieces were to do to begin with.
No idea. You'd think it would be smooth,
Yeah,
because it's all mechanical stuff.
I don't know. I don't understand that part. And then Silver has to make the decision of reeling the ship, which is at this point pretty much already destroyed by the laser.
Yeah.
Um, or to save Jim, and it's a nice character thing. Because technically, at this
Well,
point, he's gotten to the treasure. He doesn't have the treasure or keep it like all of it, but he's gotten to his goal.
if Silver was smart, he could have told Morph to steer the ship while he went and saved
Do you think Morph
Jim.
has the power to do that? How
Oh,
much
totally.
physical power do you think Morph had? This is another. I know we referenced this in some other episode or something about MythBusters, but how much like what's the myth bust of like how much force can Morph move and do?
Well, Morph can turn into a physical object, like strong, sturdy.
He
Like
can.
he turns into a wrench. Um, so he could
Okay.
steer it a little bit and then turn into something solid and just walk the wheel.
Like anchor the wheel.
You know,
Okay. Because I'm trying to think
so
the stuff he turns into, like the boot.
mhm.
Does he actually weigh as much as a boot, or he just looks like a boot?
Yeah, weight, I don't know, but physically, he definitely takes on the attributes like water is water, metal is metal.
Okay.
But weight wise, I don't know.
I mean, he's the
But yeah,
blowfish and he was floating in air, so he weighed
yeah.
nothing then.
Um, so if he was able to steer the wheel a little bit and just lock in, just turn into something to block the wheel, that would have been enough.
Okay.
Uh, so I think they could have done both if they used Morph correctly. Because I don't think Morph could have carried Jim. I don't think he could have helped there
Also,
at
with
all.
Ryder, I know Ryder would point out your flaw in what you're saying. Probably is if he was to turn the wheel one way or the other, would not the front of the ship turn into the laser, or the back of the ship turn into it by its turning?
Trying Well, what we've seen of these ships is they turn on a dime. They don't take a wide berth. They kind of just turn. So I guess the back could potentially get clipped if he turns it to the right, which is where, yeah, the right is where Silver is pulling at it. So the back could potentially get hit, but the ship would survive out of it
I don't know. Just
at
another thought.
least. Mm.
Anyway, Silver saves Jim and lets the ship go. Uh, where, as you said, this gravity is not forceful. It's very just normal Earth gravity.
Yeah, impossibly. Um, and then they escape
Yeah, they get through
with
the portal.
no treasure that we get to see.
No, only survivors too.
Yeah, all the other goons died together really quickly, falling to the
Yeah,
pits.
and then they get to Dilbert and the captain, and what was it, Ben? Is it Ben who says they can't get out of the atmosphere in time?
Um,
It was either Dilbert or Ben.
After the solar sail got hit, someone said, no, Dilbert said, we only have 30% power. That wouldn't be enough.
Okay, so then Jim Brantley said, like, looks at the map to go back through the map and go through a portal, which is, I think, a cool mechanic to use the portal system for the portal system.
Mhm.
And then he creates a solar board that he did in the beginning of the movie. And I like that Silver also takes charge at this point. He like doesn't listen to the captain or like,
Listen to the boy.
yeah, like at this point, what do you need, Jim? And helps him with it.
Yeah, and before this whole escape part, when they first exit the portal, I like their little interaction. Jim points out Silver sacrificed his treasure
Yeah.
for him.
I forget what Silver says, but he just like waves it off.
I wrote that down. Just a lifelong obsession, Jim. I'll get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
And then Jim uses his newly made craft out of scrap to go after
Yeah,
the
I
map.
had problem with this board.
I was fine with the board. I had a problem with how long it took him to scrape the wall, or that whole idea of like him falling to get it to work. That was a bit problematic to me. But like using it was made out of the gun cannon, right?
Yeah, it was made out of a cannon and a piece of sheet metal that Silver welded on, so he has a platform to stand on.
Yeah.
And that's all. That's all the modifications they did was they welded a piece of metal to the cannon,
Cannon, and that's fine. And
and the
I like,
cannon turned into a propulsion
yeah.
instead of firing cannons. It didn't make any sense to me.
Um,
If it fired like a cannon every so often to push himself forward, I'm like, okay, sure, that can make sense. But it acted like just a jet engine,
yeah, it
which
didn't have
doesn't
any
make any
ammo.
sense.
It just used its function. But I did like a little add to it that he did have to like kickstart it each time because it would only like carry him so far. It wasn't just like a one
Mhm.
and done kind of thing. So I did like that, but the scrape to ignite it to me was a little lengthy.
Lengthy, and I don't know why it worked either.
Neither did I.
This whole canon bit doesn't make any sense, but
It wasn't
it's
as
a
cool.
callback to the
I
beginning.
don't know why. Okay, it makes me think of the magnesium scene in Journey to the Center of the Earth for some reason.
When they light the flare and it
Yeah,
detonates.
like trying to
Uh,
scrape the wall to get it to work.
yeah, I guess, but
Weird comparison, I know.
yeah, well, I just don't know why a cannon would give constant propulsion as an engine because we don't see them as like constant laser beams when they're fired. We see them as bursts like
Yeah, when
cannons.
they were shooting at the asteroids. But the only thing we do see is the kick. Like it does kick back when it fires, but it's connected to the ship. So the ship doesn't rock, but
Yeah,
the cannon actually does move get a kick out of it. So I guess without all that support by itself, it can launch. So that's fine.
Yeah, which is why it would have been fine if it was shooting, but it wasn't. It was actually just blowing the whole time,
Yeah,
like you mentioned.
not the
But
best
it
of
all
looks.
works out somehow. They
And
cut it
then
really close. We get Ben counting down every
yeah,
second.
I'm like, do you think that's annoying? I can imagine you think that. Also, his eyes change color again. I guess that's just mechanic of him. Like he can,
They change color, and they also have a clock where it goes down
yeah.
as well.
But
Um,
I figured every time it would cut to Ben counting down of stuff we already know that you'd be annoyed.
no, it was okay that it was there. My problem is just Ben existing.
Oh, okay.
But the fact that there was an active clock and that Ben was saying it, it makes sense and works for what's there. Um, it's supposed to add tension. I think for kids it would.
Yeah, because he keeps
Definitely didn't for
screaming.
me.
The funny guy keeps screaming. Oh no.
Yeah. So I'm okay with Ben screaming it. I'm just not okay with Ben existing
Okay.
as we got presented. Like I said, if he turned into Flint, it would warrant his
That'd have
existence.
been cool. I will agree. That would have been cool. I think it would really been pretty late in the movie for Flint to actually have much power and thought. I think, as you said, the coolest thing would have been like if him and Silver had a history and they talked then. That would have been
Mhm.
something. But yeah. Anyway, then Jim miraculously gets out of that trench and hits the portal to go to the port, which I don't know if that's a stroke of luck, right? Does he
Oh
know
yeah.
really know that much astrology to know where to put his hand really to click on it?
I mean, even if he knows it super well, he only had like a second to look at the darn thing and press something.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, he's going to press something and randomly appear somewhere, but at least they'll be alive. But the fact that he actually managed to press that moon, I'm like, whoa, what? Uh, so I agree. The odds of him being able to pinpoint that quickly is very low. Um, but all right, it wraps it up nice and clean for the writers if they did it that way.
Yeah.
Because they just randomly landed in space and they didn't know where they were, then they'd have to write their way back home somehow, and it would be a whole other journey to
Or
get
that's
back
when the
home to
cops
his
could have been
mom.
introduced.
Yeah, or police escort. That could have been helpful. They would have potentially searched him and found Silver's treasure, but
That's
could have
true.
been something.
But yeah, they get out and Jim's all happy and everyone's happy, and I guess the portal closes because the planet's dead.
Yeah,
Doesn't really
that was a
show the planet.
problem.
Yeah, it
That was
doesn't
a
really
problem
show
I
the portal
had.
disappearing.
So everything controlling that portal was blowing up. So the portal shouldn't have even been on that whole time. The first explosion that destroyed that big area where we saw it activate should have turned off the portal immediately. So that was a problem I had written down. Was the portal shouldn't have been up the whole countdown
Okay.
because the countdown was
Yeah.
to planet exploding, right?
Yeah.
But the portal would have been broken before the planet blew up. So that was a problem I had.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Um, and then Silver goes below deck to escape because he doesn't want to run into the authorities.
Mhm.
And he has a little goodbye with Jim, which is nice. He tosses Jim some treasure he had, and knowing Silver, I doubt that is all that he had on him.
Oh, I agree. He definitely kept some change
And
because that
then,
was just a handful, and he's got a
oh
pretty
yeah, he's
pretty
got
fat
other
jacket. He
pockets.
could store some.
Um, Another thing I thought, which was pretty touching, was him saying goodbye to Morph.
Yeah, yeah, it was a big leap for Silver. Now he's all alone.
Because it was an emotional pause. He had to think about it, which I liked.
I just thought of more problems with Morph. Keep
Oh,
calling him Morph. It's Morph. He could transform into a bag of gold anytime Silver wanted to buy something.
he could, and then get the piece back. Just like float back.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Yep.
did.
Morph is OP.
Yeah. Well,
But
Morph also has to be a certain volume, right? He can't turn into like
yeah, he
a
doesn't grow
ship.
anything big.
But yeah,
Yeah. But maybe if he hollowed himself, he could turn into something bigger. But we don't get to see any of that
I
stuff.
guess the coin bag does
We
make
see him as a
sense
constant
because
size.
yeah, because he turned himself into a little version of the map into a pile of rope.
Yeah.
He broke himself up into two. So yeah. Well, then again, he turned into like what 20
Water
gym heads,
and that. Yeah. Forgot
little
about that.
squid.
Yeah. So Silver and Jim's goodbye was pretty good. Um, the it's justifiable, I believe, that Jim will let him go even after everything.
Yeah, at this point,
Um,
I would agree.
trying to think if there's any problems I have with this. The only thing I could think of is Amelia would have would have him locked up in the brig.
Oh, they just got through the portal. I don't think her first intention would go to find Silver. I think it would be fine if he's like going off and then she gets down there and asks where he is. But I guess her priorities are to just get to port. Is Dilbert's the one driving the ship, right?
Um, yes, I think he was.
Okay, then yeah, I think she'd definitely go looking for the rest of the or Jim and Silver. So
So you think it was immediate,
immediate, like
like right when they arrived at the moon, Silver went to leave.
not right when they got to the moon. They were heading on their way out of the portal. They
Oh,
came
yeah,
out of the
that's
portal and then
essentially
they were down below deck heading towards the moon.
okay.
And I
I'm
think
just trying to establish a timeline because you're saying Amelia would notice, but they left too quickly for her to do
after
anything.
coming through the portal and being like, "Wow, we're alive," I feel like at that time with how I think she doesn't fully trust Silver, of course, but I think she's okay with it and might be focused more on Dilbert not knowing how to steer a ship and guiding him, or potentially taking over to drive for him because she did that during the black hole.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
All right, that's the only problem I could potentially see there. Their goodbye is good. Then we get them landing in port,
And the
and we
mom's
see
there.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I guess what are the odds that she was there waiting? Because I don't think they phoned ahead that they'd be arriving there.
No, I don't think they phoned ahead, but I don't know if they had like a return date.
I mean, it, they couldn't because they portaled there. They didn't fly back. So even if they did, they would have still been a long ways away
I
if they
guess so.
had to
Yeah.
fly back. They took a shortcut.
Unless
So
all I can think of, and this is just me kind of, right, being at the inn she was at, there was nothing really around them. It wasn't like a market or city, anything shown. They were kind of isolated. So she could use this as a way of like getting food and trades to go to the port because it seems vastly populated with a lot of stuff. So this might be like her version of a market. The reason why she would go all the way out to a planet or all the way out to the moon spaceport versus somewhere on the planet, I don't know. We don't really see anything else on the planet other than Dilbert's house, which is also kind
we
of
know it's
isolated.
we know it's inhabited. They get it's a pretty busy inn.
Yeah,
It's big enough to have a police force, so it can't be
and it
just
has some
barren.
kind of minor situation, I guess, mining rig, which is where Jim's
Yeah,
flying
wherever he
through.
was flying
Yeah,
around. Yeah, some industrial district. Um, so yeah, it's very convenient that even if she's on the moon for whatever reason, that she happens to be at port when they get there.
Yeah. Well,
Even then,
it's also I also believe with what you said, it is convenient, but I also believe that she wasn't expecting Jim because Jim taps her on the shoulder or whatever and surprises her.
Mhm.
So she was not expecting to see him. So I kind of believe that she was just there, and Jim spotted her in the crowd. Also, do you have a problem with? Actually, I didn't necessarily check out the detail, but do you think it's a problem that Jim and Sarah are the only like humans?
um, no, I don't think it's a problem because we see a variety of everything. So I'm fine with it. If we don't even know what planet they're on,
That's true.
or if there's even an Earth, or if they're humans. It could be
That's
like
also
Star
true.
Wars. Luke Skywalker is not human.
Well,
Um,
Crimson, where's Kansas?
precisely. Um, so yeah, we don't know the ratio of species in this universe. We don't get much outside this moon and the
Look, we just know
whatever
there's a
home
lot.
world they're at.
There's a lot of
There's
different
a lot of variety.
aliens. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we got the celebration at the new inn.
we know there's at least 1,000 planets that have
That's true.
people. That's a lot of planets.
And then we see that Captain and Dilbert had children, which being a
Yeah.
cartoon is passable and fine. That it's a mixed race children, and that the children remain one of the two races. Okay, could they be adopted? Slim chance, but there's a
Very
possibility.
slim. They're so young.
But yeah.
Um,
Also,
well,
they're
all I
also
can
young. Did they
say,
have four? They have quad
I couldn't tell.
couplets.
I
They're
thought
all
the
about the
dog
same
I
age.
thought the dog kid was the only one, and then there was 4, and I'm like, "Did they have 4? I don't know."
Yeah, they have four children,
Um,
three daughters and one son. So I'm like, is that quad? Because they all look about the same age and they're all wrapped. I'm like,
yeah.
okay,
Um, like you said, kids movie, so we can get away with it, but scientifically, they're 2 different species. You couldn't do that. Um, it's weird.
and they got busy. It's a whole family of aliens.
It's funny.
And then Jim and his mom have a nice dance, which I think was nice. She
And
was actually happy. Like everything's okay now. And there's
yeah, a lot of time passed, so
also I wrote I pointed out there's like elephant people now.
oh, I didn't see them.
Oh, some of the aliens like in that I don't know what's called is that dance like part where you like walk down, which I don't know the canopy or whatever, where you put your arms up or whatever.
The Wave?
It's not doing a wave, but when people put their hands together to make an arch and people walk down the middle of them, or sometimes they like clap on the
Oh,
sides to kind of like make a
okay.
like a hallway.
Yeah.
Some of them there are like elephant trunked people. And I think it's crazy that the last scene in the movie they introduce a new alien,
Well, we got
even though it's a
1,000
side.
aliens.
Yeah, I just want wow. They're still adding new, I guess, concept alien creative artwork even in the last scene of the movie,
Yeah.
which is a nice little
Yeah,
detail.
it had to have been a few years since, um,
Oh,
the treasure
to
hunt, I
create the
guess.
whole new inn, yeah.
Well, the end could be potentially done in a year. This is the future. But we have Jim graduating an academy. So,
At least four,
uh,
I guess.
4, but you said he was 15 before?
Yes.
So he'd probably have to graduate school first before he could even go to academy
Do you
to
think he was in school? I don't think he was in school.
don't know. We don't know. We don't even know if there are schools here outside of academies for
That's true.
specialized stuff. Um, but if we assume, I guess he's not in school, academy probably is 3 or 4 years for graduating. Um, and then the kids obviously 9 months.
Yep.
Actually, I don't know how long it takes a
Who
cat to
knows?
give birth.
Who knows?
I'm gonna look that up.
Well, that's a cat, not a cat alien feline thing. We don't know. There was no dissection scene. And then it ends with a Disney magical cloud that looks like silver.
All
Little
right,
star
cats are
shining
pregnant
through.
for 2 months,
2 months. All
so
right.
very short. I did not like that silver cloud.
No.
I think that was the worst looking thing in the movie.
Oh, I thought it was just a little cute ending.
Well, the sentiment was fine. It didn't look good though to
Ah.
me because there was some 3D element, but there was 2D background, and that time it did not blend very well.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
Um,
Well, yeah, the little star shining through to look like his eye. That was cool.
I don't know if that's implying that he died and he's watching over him now. Who
I don't think
knows?
he's dead.
You don't know.
I don't know. If it's been 4 years and he hasn't returned, I don't know. But, Crimson, that wraps up Treasure Planet.
Yeah. Is it finally worth the wait? It's been years you've been trying to get me to watch this.
Um, I guess so. It hasn't. It's like just a movie. It's one of those movies where I'm like, you haven't seen this because there's a lot of those movies where I talk about it. And you're like, yeah, I've never watched it. I'm like, you've never seen this. It's not a movie where I'm like, you gotta see it, but it's just a surprise that you hadn't. So it's nice that you've seen it now.
All right.
Now that if I ever make a reference or something, you can understand kind of where it's from. But it's kind of the only aid
Okay.
to it. But now, since it's just two of us, this shouldn't necessarily take that as long as with the normal of four. Um, so Crimson, go ahead and give me your summary and rating.
All right. Summary. Um. Overall, it was it was an enjoyable film. I could see it being a good childhood film. I think it would have been better if I had seen it as a child. Kind of like how Secret Garden was definitely beneficial for me as a kid because it didn't really gravitate towards you
Ah,
guys being
yes.
older. So this definitely screams more of a childhood film than just a film. But it was still good. Um, the characters were decently well. No, they're not very complex. Silver was complex, but none of the characters were that annoying other than Ben. Ben could have been removed, but that's getting more into judgy rating stuff. Yeah, all right. The plot was okay. Very safe, piratey. It's all right. It would have been cool if we saw some space battles. The only battle we really saw was against a sun. I keep saying sun, a star. There's only one sun, our sun. Um, but a space battle would have been kind of cool because we kind of got alluded to it in the beginning with the book, and it would have been cool to see Flint once again in Bend to justify his existence. I wish Ryder was around to hear this and get his thoughts on it. Maybe if we remember, I'll bring it up during the recap, get his thoughts on it.
Maybe.
That'd be interesting. I'll start with my subjective since I kind of hinted at here that it was a decent child film. Um, the main character, unfortunately, as I said pretty early on in this with Jim, I didn't really care for that much. So I didn't really get hooked in with him. I really would have loved more of uh, the doc and the captain. I would have wanted to see a movie more with them, to be honest, than with Jim. But we would have gotten less Silver. Silver's only good because his connection with Jim. So weird little interaction there for me in terms of what I'd want to see out of the captain and Doc. But that's personal preference, not what we got. Uh, but it was enjoyable. I could see this again. I probably will at least one more in my life. um, so I'll give this a. I was teetering 6.5, 7, but I'll land on 6.5. So I have to give an answer, but I was on the fence. In terms of objective, mine did change because I saw this last night and I pretty much went to bed immediately after watching it. I was very tired, so I didn't have time to think about things. And I originally was going to give it a 6.5. After all this, it has dropped to a 5.5. Lots of problems. Problems I did see, problems I didn't. Um, Writer did a pretty good job covering a lot of the stuff we pointed out. Um, but in terms of the stuff he wasn't around, which is the planet, the final act to me was not great. It didn't feel like it built up because we had so much good character stuff in the first half, 2/3, whenever they ended up on the planet, about the last third. Um, but we kind of lost a good chunk of that heart once we get to the treasure itself, and then it builds back up after when Silver has to choose ship or gem. Uh, so feel like last act was lacking in some good stuff. I didn't get really much payoffs in terms of the treasure, which it's supposed to be about the relationship of Silver and Gem, but
Yeah.
the whole goal was the treasure. I feel like the treasure was kind of put on the side a little bit because we didn't, as an audience, at least I didn't get anything out of it. Did you really feel anything for the treasure? Did you get satisfaction out of it in any way?
Kind of that they've actually found their goal. It wasn't just like make
Okay.
believe or made up, or the treasure was some like from Kung Fu Panda. It's like what makes the dragon warrior, and it's nothing. It's like oh, it's in you the whole time. It's like what's the treasure? It's the crew we made along the way. They didn't play it that way,
Mhm.
so I like
Okay.
that.
Um, and we had brought up the fact that this turned into fiction, which you tried to excuse away, but I still feel like at the end of the day, after 100 years, it would still be history at this point and not devolve into legends. Because that'd be a thousand planets is a lot. If he
Yeah,
robbed like two or three,
and he did it one at a
some
time.
other
He
yeah,
didn't
if
have
he only
like
did a
yeah.
couple, the odds of Jim's planet hearing about him is like, okay, sure, that could just be a story. But 1,000, that's huge.
Also, something we never touched on at the beginning of the movie, he's not robbing a planet. He's robbing a ship. So what about
That's
all
true.
those?
1,000 planets and whoever knows how many ships. Um, so that was a pretty big problem. As Ryder brought up the MacGuffin stuff, pretty much everything Ryder said, I agreed with. So just so I can leave you with some stuff to talk about, I'll leave it there, and that's it.
Oh, what did you give your objective?
5.5
5.5. And your subjective?
was a 6.5.
Okay, just making sure. Okie dokie. Well, my subjective, I give as I figure out how to move these things because I'm still learning. Oh my gosh.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, it's not necessarily technical difficulties. It's just
Should it be
harder.
done in post?
No, it won't be done in post. It's just I still don't fully understand this. So my subjective is a 7. I think it's a fun movie. It's enjoyable. Not all the characters I think are as strong as others. I think the world's real cool. I think the story's fine. The music's suitable. It's very cool. The one little Disney song added in for the montage is Disney like, so that works for me. I really like the 2D, 3D, like all the other animations all blended into one to make out a movie, which is really cool. Which is kind of what was it, Sinister talked on in episode 0, talking about our feels and everything, and how Sinister felt about Who Framed Roger Rabbit having
Mhm.
live action animation. It's got that feel kind of somewhat. Um, yeah, and it's got a lot of history to it too, which is nice. But yeah, good 7. And for my objective, it has gone down. Originally, it was a 7, and now it is a 6.
Ooh, a big drop.
Yeah, because the whole science behind everything is broken, as you guys said. Like the whole things they do talk about, and then the things they ignore, which is like it's smart to bring up the smart stuff and real weird to ignore the other stuff that isn't questioned. It leaves a lot of questions. Animation's really cool. The music's good. The camera work is real cool. Especially being that it's like based on James Cameron and Steven Spielberg, so I can see that in its parts. Um, Something real interesting that I don't think I've ever seen in another animation movie that really comes to mind is the shaky point of view cam of movement that they use a couple times. They use it during the mutiny part. They use it when Scroop's chasing after Jim in the down below deck and when it's all red. Like that kind of shaky animation use of camera. That was cool, and not out of place.
Huh.
I really do like Ben being a character. Don't take this out of context. Ben being a character and introduced so far along in the movie where he's not completely, and you say completely worthless, but he's not like a character that they meet on the ship at the beginning or like earlier in the movie is like, oh, this is Jim's best friend, or this is the guy who serves Dilbert in his mansion, or something like that. Like he's introduced far along in the movie where his humor is fine, and he doesn't take over the humor that Morph gives because they're completely different. One's kind of the yelly, you know, randomness funny guy, and the other one's like the physical shown humor. And then you also have the fart joke guy who's now gone. So it
Did we
also
see
kind of
him die?
fart guy.
Fart guy?
No, I think he just vanished. Don't know where he
Weird.
is. Um, but I like that the movie is funny by showing different humor aspects to pertain to the child who likes the fart jokes, to the adult who likes kind of like those more in-depth jokes, the callbacks. Like it's got more humor to it, so I like that. But the story, some of the characters, and like Dilbert's okay, and then they kind of sideline him and then just bring him back at the end. The lazy plot stuff they do, like the rope handcuffs, and um, what was the other thing that was kind of dumb to me?
To me, it was
Sh-
him figuring out the map quickly.
no, that was
Uh,
okay to me. There was something else that was just dumb to me, and how I thought, John Silver just being in the shadows of that rock. That didn't
hmm,
make any sense to me. He just appeared, or Jim was blind or something. That was just dumb. He would have seen him, or at least any of the other crew, or the captain, Dilbert tied up something. They all just appeared. Um,
yeah.
I think Arrow was an okay character just to show the stakes of a death of someone who, like, we have a name, he has a character, he's a good guy, and then he dies to show, oh, maybe anyone could die, like give that depth of feel to the movie. I like him in the aspect of that. But everything else is just kind of so it's passable. So that's why I give it objectively a 6.
All right. I'm surprised you gave it a subjective set
Yeah, I mean
because,
it's a fine movie.
like you said, you've brought it up a few times with me. Um, so I just thought it'd be
Yeah.
a,
When
a
it comes
bigger
to
number for
Disney,
you.
there's the two underrated movies, and there's the Black Sheep, to my knowledge. And the two underrated Disney movies are Treasure Planet and Atlantis, The Lost Empire. I like Atlantis more. That is just me.
Definitely, I agree.
Um, but those are the two underrated movies. The Black Sheep movie of Disney to my knowledge, is The Black Cauldron, and I also like that one as well. But those are just kind of like the below radar ones that no one really knows about, especially for this one being such a flop. It's kind of just put aside. There's not much on it. But anyway, that is our take on Treasure Planet. I'm sure if you have anything that you'd like us to know, any other additional facts, any sides you see in the conversation that you disagree with, anything you do agree with, any characters we overlooked an aspect of or something that you want to let us know, be sure to let us know down in the comments on whatever you're using. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, if you're on Amazon, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Anchor, Castbox Media, Samsung. Did I say Samsung? I don't have a list on me, and
Maybe.
Ryder usually does this. Um, I'm sorry if
Everywhere.
I'm sorry if I missed one, but yeah, just let us know, and hopefully we'll see them. Also, feel free to also share those comments on any of our socials that we said at the beginning, and we'll gather them up as much as we can, and we'll do them throughout the recap to spread the answers and see what we all think about them. And with that, we had a geeky writer,
I'm Chris Maroon.
and I'm Sprinks, and we'll see ya next time.
Bye.
Toodaloo.